Mortem would like to thank Original Cinematic for sponsoring this week's episode. Original Cinematic is an independent production company that has made it their mission to create, produce, and promote films that are inclusive, honor women, promote the LGBTQIA+ community, and provide prominent positions and roles to POC actors and filmmakers, and promote the films of marginalized and underrepresented populations. These are all things that are extremely important to our podcast as well.
Original Cinematic is currently accepting scripts and treatments. Both William and Xxena Rush are also available via email or Zoom to discuss writing and provide input and resources to all aspiring writers free of charge. Their information will be made available in the show notes. Original Cinematic has multiple exciting projects on the horizon. Their next film, Immersion, is slated for release in early 2024. Upcoming films Fetish, Sweetener, and Run, and their documentary Drag, the Most Targeted Art Form, are anticipated for 2024 releases as well.
Their new award-winning film Group is currently on the festival circuit, and very generously, Original Cinematic will be providing a link for our patrons to screen the film on Zoom. It is truly an honor to partner with Original Cinematic, and we can't thank them enough for their contribution to our show. And now, back to our regularly scheduled program.
Salutations! Welcome to Pod Mortem. I'm Reneé Hunter Vasquez, joined as always by my co-host, my husband, and my brother.
Hi, I'm John Paul Vasquez.
Hi, I'm Travis Hunter.
This week, we're recording live from the projection room of the Embassy Theater discussing the 2022 horror prequel, Pearl. This film was directed by Ty West and written by West and Mia Goth. With the marketing tagline, An Extraordinary Origin Story, this film serves as an exploration of Pearl's past before her heinous acts in the film X. This prequel is the second part of an eventual trilogy, released just 6 months after X. Its stark contrast in tone and visuals, aided with rich technicolor, a whimsical score, and cheeky editing, was unexpected. And with an undeniably commendable performance from Mia Goth in the titular role, Pearl was a pleasant surprise to many horror fans. This film was recommended to us by friends of the show, Jeff Wroblewski, James Floyd, Dana Christine, Megan M., TJ Bronson, Beth Bauer, and Marissa E. We want to thank them all for their support as well as this suggestion. This film was also the winner of our March Patreon poll, so thank you to all of our patrons who participated and voted. If you want to help us pick an episode, join us over on Patreon at patreon.com/thepodmortem. So, what did you guys think of Pearl the first time you saw it?
I don't remember the exact date we watched it, but I think we watched it when it came to Hulu or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I remember not... I didn't enjoy the movie as much the first time I watched it. I was kind of confused at the way that things that were playing out in the movie and how things were. I will say that I enjoyed it a lot more watching it for the show and being able to sit there and pause it and break things down and understand it a little more.
Mm-hmm.
I do like the movie more the second watch than I do the first. But in saying that as well, I do think I found what wasn't working for me the first time I watched it.
Okay.
So I did enjoy it better this time, getting a better understanding for it and everything. But also within that, I think I was able to pinpoint what didn't work for the movie, for me.
Mm-hmm. I think anybody that's listened to episode 176 knows that I wasn't the biggest fan of X.
Yeah.
I think my problem with X was that it felt like something unique that was building towards something really, really interesting and fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third act was just a formulaic slasher.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was kind of a letdown for me. But this film, I will admit, I definitely like it more than X.
Yeah.
I think that a big part of that is the era that it's attempting to capture.
Okay.
I really like the style of the film and all the films that it's clearly referencing.
Mm-hmm.
it works somewhat pretty well for me as a pastiche.
Okay.
And I think that Ty West does that a lot, and he does it well when it comes to the feeling of a film.
Mm-hmm.
And we all love pastiche. We love Tarantino,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
who is constant.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think that the most successful aspect of the film for me is that.
Okay.
The style, the creative choices, the cinematography,
Mm-hmm.
production design, the score.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love the score. And I love this interplay between things that we recognize and remember from X
Mm-hmm.
and how we see some origins of it and some different versions of it in Pearl.
Right.
And also little Easter eggs of kind of some odd character overlap that isn't necessarily explained in X yet,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe Maxine.
Okay.
Maybe.
Maybe. But I mean, I think the thing for me about Pearl is it is unique, it is ambitious, it is predictable.
Okay.
I think that that's my issue with it, is that this is exactly the story. It's not the style of story I expected, but it's the story I expected.
Okay.
I think that what we'll learn about the production as far as the expedited
Mm-hmm.
style of it,
Mm-hmm.
for me, I think that explains a lot of the surface level feeling that I kind of get from the narrative,
Okay.
and in a lot of ways the character development too. But I think for me it does kind of just end up being a bit of a mixed bag,
Mm-hmm.
because there's a lot of things that this film does really well, and then there's a lot of things that I'm like, yeah, well, of course, like that's yeah. And I will say, just off the bat, film's subjective.
Yeah.
Of course.
Everything in life really is subjective as far as personal opinions on what you like, what you don't like, etc.
Mm-hmm.
There will be people who will be your favorite actor of all time that other people do not like, and there will be people that you do not like who are other people's favorite actor of all time.
Mm-hmm. This
Simply,
is a safe space.
I appreciate everybody that loves this film, and I appreciate everybody that loves Mia Goth. Personally, my taste in acting, Mia Goth does not speak to me.
That's fine.
Yeah. I totally understand. I do feel like I said, some of it to me is a little. I don't even want to say overacted, but I'm just like, okay, it's just certain scenes.
Yeah, and I will say I understand if maybe that's what we're going for as far as capturing the melodrama of this golden age of Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that is successful, sometimes it's not. When I don't know, but then there are other films that I've seen Mia Goth in, and I didn't much care for Infinity Pool, and so I think it's more of maybe it is a me problem.
Well, I
Okay.
mean, and like you said, we all have those.
People that
Yeah.
That people are like, you don't like blank. I'm not trying to out myself with anybody,
Yeah.
but it's like, no, I don't.
although you
know?
could, it would help me out a lot.
I don't appreciate Jennifer Lawrence.
There you go.
We've talked about it a lot on Talk Mortem, but now the whole world knows.
Yes.
No, it's, dude, live in your truth, because no matter what our opinion is, there are going to be comments telling us how wrong we are and why we're wrong. So live in your truth, and that's okay. I think my saving grace is I am not familiar with her in very much besides X and Pearl.
Okay.
I've seen her in Suspiria.
Yeah.
That might be it. I mean, off the top of my head. So I don't know if this is just her typical like kind of thing, but seeing her in interviews and the way that she speaks in real life, even the way like she holds her mouth when she speaks in real life, it's like, I appreciate you are a completely different person in these movies.
Mm-hmm.
And that's commendable. But if she's just kind of doing the dice move in every movie, then, that is kind of annoying. But no, live in your truth. If you don't, it's okay.
Well, thank you.
And nobody come for him.
Please. I'm very sensitive.
He's very sensitive. But no, I liked this a lot. And again, I was surprised with how much I liked X when I revisited it. Because the first time I was like, oh, that was pretty good. And then the second time I was like really riding hard for it, even when we recorded the episode. And I was like, okay, bitch. Like, I didn't realize that I liked it that much until I was kind of like, till the time came.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Yeah. I was like, okay. But, when we watched Pearl that first time, I was like, oh, that was, And at that time I had only seen X that first time, and it was like, okay, it was good. I liked it, but everybody's losing their mind. Why?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this was better. I still think that I like it better than X, but I did really like X as well. I feel like this is such and like you said, okay, yeah, predictable. I will give you that. It's more like a character study. And I think that this is who this person was before this movie started.
Mm-hmm.
And we just are given this like snapshot of these really pivotal moments, if that makes sense.
I don't know. I think for me, I want it to work more as a character study.
Okay.
I want to know more about Pearl.
Well, you're just not going to get that. I don't know what to tell you about.
That's the thing. No, and you know what? Here's the other thing that I really am not a big fan of this in screenwriting.
Mm-hmm.
The tell, don't show.
Mm-hmm.
And they do so many times in this film, they show you stuff and you get just enough and you're like, oh, I've pieced everything together. Fantastic. And they're like, and then by the way.
Yeah.
And then the dialogue is just, if you didn't get that, I'm a star.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, I know, I saw.
Yeah. I'll give you that. It is, I like it quite a bit. I like the kind of the whimsy of it. The character of Pearl herself is such a dichotomy of this like blind ambition, childlike whimsy, and horrific violence and darkness coexisting. And I feel like the film itself does a good job of kind of displaying both of those. Can it be a little heavy-handed? Sure. Is it a little predictable where it's like, oh, of course, classic escalation. Of course she's doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. But it is a journey that I'm willing to buy into because it is so, like, visually, it's striking.
It is, and I think that it is also the contradiction of this lighthearted film style and this very dark subject matter and violence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Putting those two together. JP and I were talking off mic and kind of came to the conclusion as far as this kind of a dynamic character working a little bit better with Lola in The Loved Ones because it's a very similar style of character.
Right.
But I just, again, maybe it is down to performance for me because I think Robin McLeavy in that film really captured both of those sides in a way that was much more, for me, entertaining and pleasing to me.
No, yeah, I felt the same way. And thinking about it, like you said, T, when we were talking, it is more like she uses the child like towards her father or childishness like
Lola.
as a tool. Yeah, Lola does. And then it's like, okay, so you are old enough to know what's going on. Pearl is obviously older than Lola.
Yeah.
I get, we get put in and see what she has to deal with on an everyday basis, but it does kind of feel for a little bit, for me anyway, that she's younger until we find something out. And then it's like, what? You know what I mean? I was like, okay. So I do think that it was more successful in The Loved Ones. I guess maybe like you said, just preferring that character.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? The way that character is portrayed a little more than how this is. And for me, I like the way the movie looks and I do like the music. I think the problem I'm having is that because again, the music is great. It is good. But I want more when things are going on. I want it to stay whimsical. I want it to match with how colorful the movie is.
So you want more of a contrast.
Right.
With that.
If I'm perverting this style of Mary Poppins and It's a Good Life and all that shit, leave it that way. Because when stuff starts going on and the music is typical horror movie music, I'm thrown into a horror movie that I haven't been looking at this whole time. Because everything is very bright. And like there is no way to not miss anything because nothing is in darkness except for when it's at night. You know what I mean? So I almost feel like if we would have had the intense moments with comical or whimsical music, but still kind of sinister, it would have played in a little more for me into that style of what he's doing. Because you're right, it does look beautiful.
Yeah.
And everything looks really good. And for me, that did keep my attention. But when stuff gets intense, I do feel like I'm being shifted back into a horror movie.
I totally get that. And I think that would have been a very interesting choice to see. I don't think I would be mad at that because it's really like leaning into. But again, I feel like so much of this film is a dichotomy, and the score is as well. To what you guys were saying about Lola, that is a very interesting point. I think the difference between the characters is that this duality in Lola is like fostered and encouraged. And in Pearl, it's not.
It's suppressed.
Okay. And I feel like Pearl is wearing a very thin veil, a very thin mask. And there is pure, just bad shit simmering constantly beneath the surface. I think that Lola was encouraged to.
I was going to say.
Let it boil over a little bit.
She had boyfriend zombies too. So he was. I guess you're right. He was feeding into.
I do want to say, too, your point, though, about the feeling of the film and the way that it contrasts. I think, speaking of contrast, for me, I think one of the most commendable aspects is how different this film is from X.
Yes.
Yeah.
It feels completely different. And so, I mean, to come away from X and hop right into the production of Pearl, even doing some pre-production during the production of X, you really do feel a full shift.
Yeah.
And that is not easy to do. And so that really should be applauded.
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
With that, I think we can talk a little bit about the production. Obviously, X and Pearl were both filmed during the pandemic. And Mia Goth, I watched her in an interview. She said that while they were still prepping for X, they hadn't even started filming it yet. Ty West texted her and asked if they could FaceTime because he had an idea. So, of course, she says yes. And the idea was a prequel for Pearl, the character. Again, they've not even started filming X yet. But he asks Mia Goth to help him write it. Of course, she wants to. She was like, I've never done anything like that before. He was like, look, set a timer on your phone for 30 or 45 minutes and just write during that time. And then I'll FaceTime you and we can talk about what you came up with and we can kind of flesh it out. Which is like, I think a really cool like collaboration that the two of them did.
Yeah.
As the person who's going to be playing this character in two very different stages of her life.
And even if it doesn't work out and turn into what you want it to, it's still very good background to have on the character you're playing.
Yes, and that's what they said because they were very cognizant of the fact that A24 might not go for this. And so they're like, if A24 says no, this is just for us then. This is just for us to have a better understanding of who Pearl is and like where she came from. But of course they do want A24 to say yes. So they're like, look, what if we do it in black and white? That'll be cheaper. So they go to A24, they pitch the story. They were like, and we want to do it, you know, of the time. We want it to be black and white. And they're like, no, we have too many black and white films. And they're like, oh, did I say black and white? They're like, no, okay, not black and white. We're going to pivot.
Yeah.
Technicolor, Wizard of Oz, Mary Poppins. So they settle on like this ultra colorful style. Ty West called it Demented Disney.
Okay.
I think it works very well.
No, yeah.
Because it is gorgeous.
I agree 100%. I will say one thing that I have seen a lot. Some people are kind of critical about it not really nailing down a particular time. We know the film is set in 1918, but the films that they're referencing are from like the 30s, 40s, and 50s. Some in the 20s too. I don't care.
No.
Like when we look at Tarantino and Glorious Bastards is set in the 40s, we get some stuff from the 70s. Like who gives a shit?
That's what I was about to say.
You know, it feels good. It looks good.
Yeah.
Enjoy it.
It fits.
Yeah. It just works.
Yeah.
It's like if you're using an iPhone, like then it's
Yeah,
like
they're like, all right.
There are egregious things, but there are things that you can overlook in terms of just the storytelling.
Yeah.
Of it. But obviously A24 was on board. And they started filming in New Zealand about 3 weeks after they finished X. Like it was immediately after. So instead of breaking the sets down, they just reused them, changing the paint and the wallpaper. And you can see these are the exact same, the house, the barn. It's the same, which really adds to it for me.
No, yeah.
And there are a lot of shots that are reminiscent of shots in X.
Yeah.
And seeing it in a different context is very fascinating.
Yes.
But it keeps us in that universe.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And especially if you watch them back to back, or you know what I mean? It's a treat, honestly.
Yeah.
But the crew from Avatar, The Way of Water, was already in New Zealand and on break. And most importantly, they had already been quarantined.
Okay.
Because again, this is during the pandemic. Everybody, has been isolated. And so they were perfect to work on Pearl. And Ty West had said that with cinema in the state that it was during the pandemic, it was important to him to jump into another project and kind of keep all these people working.
And that's another thing that is very commendable.
Yeah.
And one thing I will say about Ty West is you see it in The House of the Devil. You see it in this. You see it in X. This man loves cinema.
Yeah.
And you do feel it. I did see a quote from Martin Scorsese that was kind of to the same tune after he watched Pearl, and he enjoyed it very much. But I just want to make sure that because I know me and Ty West have had our issues in the past. And so I just want it to be known.
In an entirely two-sided beef,
Yes,
right?
that he has responded to many times in my head. But no, I just think that his love for cinema is clear.
Yeah.
And especially in moments of Pearl where you see different things referenced. And there is an aspect of it that is such a love letter to the history of cinema.
Okay.
But they jumped right from X to Pearl, like I said, with only about 3 weeks in between. And then they only had 4 weeks to film Pearl. So, I mean, I think what they came out with is very impressive.
Yeah.
But it premiered at the Venice Film Festival and released in September of 2022, a whole 6 months after X.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Which is insane. But it's obviously the second part in this trilogy, and Maxine should be out this year. I'm waiting with bated breath for that.
Yeah.
I've heard that it is a love letter to Giallo.
Okay.
And so
So are you going to be extra excited or extra critical?
I'm afraid.
Now, before we tip our hat to this film, we would like to issue a warning for spoilers. Podmortem is a very in-depth podcast, and in thoroughly discussing horror films, we have no choice but to spoil a thing or two. If you don't wish to be spoiled, please go watch the film, then come back and enjoy the show. If you've already seen the film or don't care about spoilers, then let's dance. Now, this film relies heavily on having already seen X. If you haven't, we suggest you go watch it or listen to episode 176 of our show as a refresher. The film opens with swelling orchestral music. Our view is of the inside of a barn, and we slowly glide towards the closed door, sunlight peeking through the slats. The inspiring music continues as the doors swing open and reveal a very familiar farmhouse. A rooster's call echoes as clean linens dry in the wind on a clothesline. Credits take the center of the screen in a classic old Hollywood font as we head inside the house.
So just a few things off the bat. Just the vibe and atmosphere already.
Yeah.
It's so good. And also the fact that we're looking from the barn to the farmhouse, and that's how X opens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Just very quickly about the music. The music was done again by Tyler Bates, who we've talked about quite a bit on this show, because he, I believe, works often with Rob Zombie as well.
All right.
But he was given the assignment during the production of X. And given kind of the idea of what Pearl was going to be like, what they were trying to capture as far as the vibe was concerned. And so he was told to write 85 minutes of music for Pearl, and you know how quick the production was.
Yeah.
They got together a 65-piece orchestra to record the score for this film.
Yeah.
And it all just comes off so brilliantly.
It really
Yeah.
does.
I think that's one of the major successes in this film. The other major success I want to talk about is the cinematography. Because they brought back Elliot Rocket, who also shot X. He works a lot with Ty West. He worked on House of the Devil. The Innkeepers, and Cabin Fever 2.
Okay.
But Ty West, again, as I said, a very adept pastiche filmmaker.
Mm-hmm.
And so anytime it seems, hey, we need you to capture this kind of a tone, this kind of an era, Elliot Rocket has it.
Yeah.
Right.
But the interesting thing to me that I learned, I was reading in Filmmaker Magazine, they used the same exact cameras and lenses that they used on X for this film.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
The thing is that they changed the lighting and the LUTs, which is basically the color grading methods that they use to create the vibrancy in this film.
Okay.
A lot of people, including myself, wondered if maybe they did do Technicolor.
Yeah.
But they didn't.
Wow.
Okay.
The thing is that it was easier for them now, especially with the cameras that they had already been using on X, just use the same equipment again and then kind of fix it in post.
Okay.
But the thing and I talked about the 3-color strip process of Technicolor on The Love Witch, episode 101. So I won't go into it again because we spent a lot of time on it.
Right.
But they were trying to replicate that feeling both digitally in post-production, but also in camera during filming. And so Ty West had said in an interview with IndieWire that if you look at the camera while they're filming, all of the colors of the production design are so vibrant so that when you do get to that color grading stage, it does this little enhancement feel like Technicolor.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
So it's just a lot of work that went into it, and I just really, really want to commend it.
Yeah.
because it does give you the feeling of that time. 'Cause
Yeah.
that was the very first thing I thought when the barn opened and you come out is Mary Poppins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was very like, oh shit, this is, what's going on here?
It reminds me almost, and not to the level, of course, but when Dorothy opens the door.
Yeah.
And you're like, holy shit, this film's in color?
Yeah.
But and it is the green of the grass, the color of the house, the red of the barn.
Yeah.
The sky is CG.
Really?
What?
Yeah.
Could not tell.
No. But it looks brilliant.
Yeah.
In a bedroom, dolls line the wallpaper. Sitting in front of her vanity, her fingers delicately adjusting the bows in her hair, is Pearl, played by Mia Goth. She stands in front of her own reflection, and the lights shut off, loud and final, like stage lights, casting the rooms into darkness. The music pauses once again, but resumes when a small light only illuminating Pearl comes back on, and we see her posing gracefully in the mirror. She dances slowly, closing her eyes to her invisible crowd, but the glamour is broken when the door swings open.
I do want to talk a little bit about the production design as well. The production designer was Tom Hammock.
Okay.
He also did X, and so it was really just bringing this crew back together.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I guess also the people from Avatar
Yeah.
that I was not aware of. But as you said, is exactly as you said, the 3 to 4 weeks after X wraps, they begin production on Pearl. But they said that it was the opposite of what was done with X, because in X, you take this property, this exterior of a real farmhouse in New Zealand, and you tear it up. You make it look terrible. You make it look lived in and kind of dingy. Interior on sets, exterior on the real location. But in Pearl, they're beautifying it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is 60 years ago
Yeah.
from X.
So you're trying to give this thing what it looked like when it was as lively as it could have been.
Yeah.
And so they had actually said that making Pearl, as far as the cinematography and the production design, was way easier than doing X.
Oh, wow.
Because the thing of it is, and they had Tom Hammock said in an interview in Pushing Pixels, that the good thing about this era, as compared to 1979 and X, is that a lot of people watching this film were not around to remember it.
Okay.
And so you can kind of take a bit of creative license evoking the era.
Yeah.
Right, without
And-
having to be...
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you have Coke bottles from 79 that he said he purchased on eBay for the production versus, I don't know what shit looked like in 1918.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is a little bit easier in that vein. But also with the cinematography, the lighting that they used for X was era specific. Here, they just used LEDs, like things like that, to where it's like we don't have to go back to 1918.
Yeah.
We're not Robert Eggers. We don't.
Plus, I feel like as long as it's like old enough or it looks super old, it can fit.
If it has
Yeah.
the vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that you mentioned the wallpaper because he talked about that in the interview as well. They had to find this very specific wallpaper for this era to kind of fit, not just in style, but in color, for it to kind of match these Technicolor color palettes they created. And the interesting thing about it is because of this overlap in production where they're already beginning pre-production on Pearl while X is being filmed, Hammock said that there are tears in X's wallpaper that reveal the aged Pearl wallpaper.
Oh, man.
And so in X, you can see some of this work already.
Okay.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That is so fucking cool. Not to go backwards, but did you say that the interiors were sets?
A lot of the interiors for Pearl are sets.
Yeah, I couldn't even tell.
Not at, like, that is wild.
Yeah.
And I think that there are a lot of locations that are used, a lot of exteriors, because they built that the guest house where the people stay in X.
Yeah.
It's on the property here. They built that barn for the film
Okay.
on the property. The farmhouse was already there. They just modified it. But then you go inside and it's usually a set. And then there's other places that they had to use sets that we'll talk about a little bit later. But it really is this very seamless,
Yes, extremely.
Yeah.
But we see now that the lights in the bedroom were always on once the door opens. And when Pearl turns to see her mother, Ruth, played by Tandy Wright, standing in the doorway, she freezes. Very quickly, I just wanted to talk about Tandy Wright because we were talking off mic this morning, and I feel like Mia Goth, the way that her performance is hailed, and I believe rightfully so, Tandy Wright does not get her flowers.
No.
Because she is fantastic in this. I read that she learned conversational German for this role. She is not German.
Okay.
But her accent fooled German speakers from what I read.
You fooled me and I don't even know how to speak German.
Yeah. I was like, we lived in Germany until I was 10.
Yeah.
And it's not, I'm not around anyone that speaks the language,
Right.
but it sounded very good to me.
Yeah.
I would agree. And I agree completely with what you had said. Her performance is probably my favorite in this film. There's a monologue that comes later that is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And does not get.
No.
Yeah.
Because there's another monologue that kind of steals the thunder, but her performance is not to be overshadowed.
Yeah.
I think that she does amazingly. I think that this character is so complicated, and if you're just looking like through Pearl's perspective, it is very flat. It is very almost like cartoonish, but this character is grappling and wrestling with so much.
Yeah.
And I think that Tandy Wright does such a fantastic job of portraying that nuance. I did also find it extremely interesting because this is another crew member who was on X and had already been quarantined. She was the intimacy coordinator for X.
Really?
How fucking cool is that?
That is incredible. Her performance, and it is exactly as you said, with grappling with so much.
Yeah.
It's a very tragic character.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in that monologue, you see like 8 different emotions.
Yeah.
And trying to grapple with all of it.
Yeah.
It's just
and
fantastic.
you can see,
Yeah.
because for the majority of the film, she does come off very detached and cold. And it's clearly a coping, just put your head down and get through the day. And the moment when that breaks in that monologue, it is very powerful. And I mean, obviously we're going to discuss it when we get there, but it just nobody talks about it. And it's not, she needs the flowers too.
Yeah. And it's very vulnerable.
Yes.
Yeah.
And open and very honest and honest to a
To
point.
it,
Yes.
to its detriment.
Yes.
Yeah. But again, and just the accent and the German that she does, it's very impressive. But Ruth looks Pearl up and down in disgust, and Pearl looks back at her guiltily. After looking her up and down, Ruth asks in German rhetorically if she told Pearl she could wear her old things. Pearl hangs her head, and her mother tells her sternly to take it off and go to the barn to feed the animals like she said she would. The whimsical music resumes as Pearl stomps out of the house wearing overalls and a t-shirt. Once there, she tosses a handful of hay in for Charlie the cow. She sighs dramatically and leans on the gate to Charlie's pen, resting her head on her arms. She tells the cow dreamily that one day she will never see her again. She reasons that farm life might be for Charlie, but it's sure not for her. She squats down, making herself eye to eye with Charlie as she reveals to her with a smile that she's special, and her mom is going to feel real stupid when she finally finds that out. Charlie does not comment.
I feel like, look, and this is what I was kind of talking about in the intro.
Yeah.
And I understand we're trying to evoke this kind of melodramatic era of film.
Yeah.
But I really thought that the opening sequence was very successful on its own.
Of her in the mirror?
Yes. The lights, almost as if it's a spotlight.
Okay.
Stage lights going off as soon as her mother comes in. I get everything from that.
Right.
You want to be famous, and she's holding you back. Mm-hmm. And then she's like, I'm going to be famous, cow. And I'm like, all right, I guess. I got it, but okay. Yeah, sure.
I did read that Ty West had her watch Whatever Happened to Baby Jane and The Wizard of Oz.
I get that.
And independently, at the beginning, I was like, this is very much giving Baby Jane Hudson in her own world. You know what I mean? But she's really just a very sad person dancing in her house. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think she's going to get any ice cream.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But Pearl picks up another handful of hay and does a theatrical spin before dropping it in front of Mary the sheep. She tells the animal that one day the whole world is going to know her name, and when she asks for agreement, Mary bleats one. Pearl thanks her with a curtsy as she snatches up a pitchfork from the front of the barn. A pitchfork that maybe we've seen before in another film.
Yeah.
X.
Yeah. The motion picture.
Yeah.
The 2022. But she returns to the center of the barn, stabbing the pitchfork into the ground and slowly spinning around it, telling the animals that she does love a good audience. Music mounts as she spins and skips. She climbs the bales of hay and raises the pitchfork high over her head, proclaiming that they see her for who she truly is. But a goose, aptly named Mr. Goose,
Very good.
walks into the barn honking. Her spotlight stolen. Pearl asks what he's doing in there.
She clearly has had run-ins with this goose before.
This was on-site beef.
Yeah, I told you not to come back here.
She climbs down from the mountain of hay and stands in front of the goose menacingly. He continues to cluck at her as she slowly raises the pitchfork. The animal's noises mount along with the music as Pearl's face twists and she brings the pitchfork down hard. Mr. Goose's clucking stops.
This goose is cooked, huh?
Yes.
I think you're right. There's a little beef. Maybe he had some bad news, and she was like, "Dude, I was performing.
Yeah.
What are you doing?"
Pearl, listen.
Yeah.
It's like, I've got news about World War I.
Right, the mail came.
It's like, no,
right,
no,
you
no.
motherfucker. It's like,
That was my big number.
yeah.
Pearl walks along the trail with the bloody goose still stuck to the end of the pitchfork. She walks through the path until she comes to the dock of a pond. Holding the goose out over the water, Pearl calls out loudly for Theta. We finally see Theta, the alligator, slowly making her way toward the dock. With a huge smile, Pearl encourages her, and when Theta reaches them, she tells her, "Take it." Theta does as told, leaping from the water and snatching the ill-fated goose in her strong jaws. We freeze on this image and finally get the title, Pearl. First of all, don't come for me because I don't know if this is an alligator or a crocodile. I don't know. I know that one of them can go on land and one of them really can't. I don't know. They're both in water. They both look fucking scary.
I thought the difference between an alligator and a crocodile is that one is called an alligator and the other.
Well, one you see later and one you see after a while.
Oh, that's what it is.
It's like, when did I last see you? Has been a while.
You're a crocodile.
Okay. You're a crocodile.
I did love seeing this pond again. I don't know how long alligators/crocodiles live. I don't know if that's the same Theta.
Right.
I did look it up because I thought it'd be interesting if it was.
Uh-huh.
And it turns out that alligators can live and have lived from 60 to 80 years.
Okay.
So maybe
It's
yeah.
possible.
that is kind of scary,
Yeah.
actually.
And some said the median is like 50 or whatever, but
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
But
sometimes.
it's possible.
Well,
Yeah.
And Theta is well fed. So,
Yes.
I mean, she's probably on the outside stretch of longevity.
I will say though, if she didn't call her name and she just showed up, you could think that the alligator was Pearl when she jumps out of the water, and it's like, oh, that's Pearl.
The way the
Yeah, the way the font comes out.
It's like Hugo Stiglitz and Inglourious Basterds.
I was curious about the name Theta, and clearly the alligator / crocodile is named after Theta Bara. She was a silent film star, and they called her the Vamp.
Okay.
But she's considered by many to be the first sex symbol of the film era. So, and if you Google her, you've seen that face before. Like, you've seen her before. So I thought that was, because clearly all of the animals are named after someone theatrical.
I will say I was kind of, and I know I said that the film is predictable, and it does get to that point for me. This was unexpected to begin this way.
Yeah.
Because I really thought that this would kind of be a descent into...
Yeah.
Okay.
Not, she's already, butchering animals in cold blood.
Yeah.
Right.
She clearly is.
Before we've seen the title.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the year 1918 takes over the entire screen, and suddenly we're back at the farmhouse at night. Pearl stands in the kitchen with her mother preparing dinner, and Ruth tells her sternly that she is not to indulge in any more foolishness. Pearl protests quietly that it's just dancing, but Ruth counters that it's selfish. She tells her daughter that with the farmhands gone, she can't do everything by herself. Pearl looks up at her before defending herself, reminding her mother that she does help. Ruth doesn't acknowledge this. She switches to German, telling Pearl to put the corn in the pot and go get her father. Pearl does as she's told, dropping the corn she's just shucked into the pot, but she gets distracted when she sees a pile of mail on her way out of the kitchen. She asks if she got anything today, and Ruth tells her no, but she goes through the mail regardless. She stops on the newspaper, its bold headline declaring, "Drastic action to half Spanish influenza." Skimming the front page, Pearl says that the Allies have taken control of France, but Ruth just tells her that she can read it after dinner. Pearl is stuck on this news, though, telling her mother that this could mean the end of the war. But Ruth snaps at her, telling her to do as she's told and adding that she doesn't want to hear about any more dead Germans tonight. Pearl finally drops the paper and leaves the kitchen. She heads into a bedroom where her father, played by Matthew Sunderland, sits quietly in a wheelchair. Pearl tells him that dinner is ready and takes him from the room, leaving a bright yellow bird to hop around in its cage, and I am immediately scared for that bird.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I will say, bright yellow bird.
Yeah.
Color theory.
William Rush!
Yes.
At dinner, Ruth leads the prayer before they eat. Pearl immediately starts to dig into her corn, but Ruth reminds her to help her father eat. Pearl sets her food down and begins to spoon food into her father's mouth. We cut to Pearl reading a letter dated September 9th, 1918. In the letter, addressed to my precious Pearl, the writer laments his time at war. He talks about the endless walking, the pains in his feet, the fear in the trenches at night. He talks about other soldiers going mad and the carnage he's seen that he'll never forget. As she reads out loud, we see Pearl hanging laundry on the clothesline in the sun. She looks up to see Howard, played by Alistair Sewell, walking on their property in his uniform. He waves at her, and Pearl's eyes fill with tears. Now, the letter continues that thinking of Pearl has been the only reprieve. The writer maintains that he is proud to serve his country, but he never wants to be away from her again. He can't wait to come home so that they can begin their lives together. He signs it, "Till death do us part, your loving husband, Howard." Howard?
Howard.
Mm-hmm.
I will admit that surprised me as well.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't think Howard Hamlin was going to be here.
Howard Hamlin.
What a arc.
Yeah.
He really didn't do anything wrong.
No,
He didn't.
He didn't. But I just didn't expect her to already be married
Yeah.
when we begin this film.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying here. Then I was like, oh, so you're older.
Mm-hmm. Pearl folds the letter back up, and we see that she is reading it perched on the edge of the bathtub, wearing nothing but a towel. She was reading it to her shirtless father, sitting quietly in his chair. She pours medicine onto a spoon and gives it to him gently, telling him that she'll go to town tomorrow to get more medicine for him. And that means she gets to stop at the movies, but she warns him not to tell her mother. She drops her towel and sinks into the tub, continuing that they show all the best dancers there. She says dreamily that she knows she could be up there with them one day. She kicks her legs in a dance, splashing water around while her father sits watching. It's weird.
It's very weird.
I was a little afraid, speaking of the loved ones, that we were kind of going in that direction, and it walks a very fucking thin line. It's weird.
It is very weird, and I know I just said that, but it is.
It's weird.
Hey, my note is that's weird, but okay, Ty. Again.
First name with
well, you guys are friends, so I figured,
you talk to him all the
you
time.
introduced us once.
Friends.
Friend, quote unquote.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess I get it. You can't really waste the water at the time. It is, 1918. But I mean, even that, if your dad, you just got done giving him a bath, he's gonna be cold. Again, then you're just hold on, let me shower real quick, Pops. Then I'll finish you up. Plus, he is sitting right next to the tub. Turn him away towards the heat or wherever.
I feel like I'm like, is this speaking to like her childishness?
I think
to
so.
her, it's not weird. It's not inappropriate. She's just like daydreaming, and I don't know. Like I will, and I am ready to defend this film. But this is one aspect that I'm not quite sure of the motivation or intention of this moment.
Right. Thinking it's like she's communicating with ones that can't fully communicate back. You know what I mean? Her dad's unable to, she's telling him, talking to him, that's her friend, that's her dad. Hey, don't tell mom, but I'm going to go to the movies. When she's talking to the animals, hey, you guys know I'm going to be a star. You guys know how talented I am. But they're unable to answer her back.
That is so interesting and that's an excellent point and observation, because the one person that she talks to that can and does give her feedback, it's like dream squashing.
Right.
So, I mean, that's a really good point. The ones that you can open up to are the ones that can't tell you.
Yeah.
Go chop wood. Go feed the animal. You know what I mean?
We are the animals.
We are the animals. Feed us. But I'm going to still watch you dance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Although the cow did bleat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think might have been imagined.
The sheep bleated.
Well, I don't know what an animal is. we went over this on Your Next.
That's right.
We did, for sure. But Ruth enters the room and says her name sternly. Pearl reasons that she just didn't want to waste the hot water. Ruth drops it, telling her that the money for the medicine is on the table. She pulls a sweater up over father's shoulders, warning her daughter to cover her face when she goes to town. She talks about rumors of a resurgence and asks God to forbid sickness coming back to their home. She pushes father out of the room, and Pearl doesn't say another word. I do think that it is very clever and interesting that this is set during another pandemic.
Yeah.
And people are utilizing masks. And I mean, I thought that was very clever.
It is quite interesting as well that Ruth says back to our home regarding the flu.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Because that's something I didn't catch until I didn't put together until it's like explicitly stated.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
The next day, as whimsical music plays, Pearl rides her bike past a cornfield with a lone scarecrow standing in the middle. Now that scarecrow's gonna come into play later. But the riding past was reminiscent of The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
I felt that, and I felt Texas Chainsaw.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
The distant shot of the van.
Yeah.
I will say again, the colors are magnificent.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that shot is just fantastic.
Mm-hmm. She passes a stagecoach headed in the opposite direction, and she finally reaches a very bright town. I didn't notice this until the second time I watched it for this, but there is a man walking past the pharmacy wearing one of those like sandwich board signs.
Okay.
And it says, "We shall not accept a life we do not deserve."
Yes.
Okay.
Which is a huge theme of X.
Right.
And I was like, hold on, because I completely missed it the first time.
My question is the man with the sandwich board the preacher on the TV later?
Okay.
Because that's what he preaches.
Yes.
Right. I was going to say that sounds like something from X.
It is.
It is.
Yeah.
Maxine said it constantly.
Yeah.
And then when we get the snippets on, the evangelical station or whatever. Yeah. But I was like, when I saw it.
Okay.
And it is kind of a blink and you miss it thing.
Yeah, because
Yes.
I didn't see that.
I missed it the first time. But Pearl heads into the pharmacy where she's given liquid morphine sulfate for her father. She sets a coin down on the counter and whisks the medicine away.
Something very interesting I read in Pushing Pixels and the New Zealand Film Commission website.
Mm-hmm.
They were talking about them filming in New Zealand this section. And what is very interesting about it is a modified downtown area in New Zealand. This is real.
Oh,
wow.
On location. And the thing is that whenever they were shooting X, the production designer went outside of their hotel, walked a little bit, and found this area.
Wow.
And he was like, this would be perfect for Pearl. We just need to fix it.
Yeah.
And so they covered the asphalt in dirt, so it's not a paved road. They added facades to all the buildings to look era specific.
Yeah.
And they even created that facade of the pharmacy window. That's not real. It's just a window there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so them shooting through it and you seeing the backwards letters of pharmacy, it is adding to this scope and this idea of building out this town without actually doing it.
That's very smart.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And it works. I'll tell you, I thought they were in Valentine or Blackwater.
And it really, I mean, we go, even our downtown area is reminiscent of this.
Yeah.
We just have asphalt roads.
Yeah.
There's a lot about this theater that I'll get to after we start to explore it a little more.
Okay. But when we see Pearl outside, she is wearing her mask as she was told, but she makes a beeline for the Embassy Theater across the street. After taking a lingering look at the poster for Palace Follies with drawn women dancing in a row, Pearl heads inside. She takes her seat in the mostly empty theater and watches the graphic and disturbing war video playing. As mild coughs echo around her, she pulls her mask down and takes a long swig of the morphine before putting it back into place. Is this real?
Well, she's drinking daddy's drugs. I don't know if
Yeah.
anything's
That's
real.
what I'm saying, is what, because it was horrible.
Well, I will say I know they used to do newsreels
Oh, yeah.
instead of those like the previews that we
previews,
get
yeah.
these
Right.
days. But I don't know that they were that graphic.
Yeah, I was like, somebody's face was melting.
Yeah, that's
Right, can
Yeah.
we just be inside the cup of Coke? And see the
Yeah.
ice and the...
we were just going to the lobby and now.
Yeah, I know.
What the fuck is this?
Good Lord.
It's like, now let's watch ladies dance. It's like,
No.
I'm not in the mood anymore.
I'm very upset.
Yeah.
But the video finally ends and the title for Palace Follies takes over with Arthur Fields' Wee Wee Marie playing.
Interesting.
Very interesting. And again, I feel like we kind of glossed over the fact that she is drinking her father's medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Your dad needs that, and don't do that. Don't do that.
I must admit as well, I don't know why I'm so proper.
I also must
I
admit.
think I've been watching too many of these old pictures. But I don't see the point of that with Pearl.
Yeah.
I don't see the point of her drinking her father's drugs.
I maybe to kind of underline selfishness, because that is a major issue that Ruth has with her.
Yeah.
And she's right to call it
And
out.
Yeah.
it is pretty selfish to drink
Yes.
to get a little fucked up while you watch
Yeah.
people dance.
Yeah.
Daddy, they only gave me half.
Yeah, no.
Like, what?
And also, Mom, it cost a lot more this time. It's like, what?
And
Oh,
also,
yeah.
and also talking beam of light, it costs a lot more.
But the film begins and the women dance as Pearl watches with wonder in her eyes. Once it's over, she rushes into the theater's alley. She snatches her mask off and looks wonderingly at the playbill for Palace Follies. The side door opens and the projectionist, played by David Corenswet, steps out to have a cigarette. He is credited as the projectionist. He does not have a name. A lot of the credits in this are very simple like that. Woman, director.
Yeah.
And I think that this is just like indicative of how Pearl sees people.
I did see an interview with Mia Goth and she said something that is very interesting in theory, but I don't really like it for the film, is that he's called the projectionist because he's a projection. He's not real.
But he works here.
But okay, so do you mean not real, like what he represents to her, or like he is a delusion?
The way that it was described in the interview is that it could be both. It could mean both.
Then it's a hard disagreement.
Yeah, I was going to say.
One of those.
Yeah.
But we just watched that movie.
Yeah. It's like, who did that?
For the other one, that is an interesting little piece of symbolism, because absolutely. But he's a real fucking
I would think he's a
flesh and
human
bone
being.
human.
Yeah, but the way that the interview was, it was kind of a little bit of both. But I mean, it's interesting to think of that kind of quality in Pearl in a way. But I also think that it makes much better that he's here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And something as well interesting about David Corenswet, I did read that he's going to be the new Superman.
Really?
I can absolutely see it.
Okay.
I could definitely see it. But he asks Pearl if she enjoyed the show, and she just looks up at him wordlessly. He offers her a cigarette, and when she just looks at him and the cigarette he's extended toward her, he assures her that it's okay. He doesn't have the bug. A lot of y'all be saying that.
Yeah.
A lot of that's not true.
Yeah.
But she finally steps forward and accepts the cigarette from him. And when he asks if she likes movies, she corrects him. She likes dancing. He muses that she's a future Tiller girl, and he can see it now. Now, the Tiller girls were the famous dance troupe, maybe I don't know, the famous dance troupe in England, and they were established in the late 1800s. If you look up video, I was showing John Paul last night, precision on fucking 10. It is so impressive. Like, you know, the Simpsons couch gag when they are in a line and they're doing the kicks, that's them, but they're not cartoons.
Very good.
And there weren't as many elephants. But very, very impressive. Like a very big deal.
Yeah, that looks crazy. But they're all doing it all synchronized.
Yes.
So it looks amazing.
It's very impressive.
From this scene, I'm thinking, what a nice fella.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But Pearl shrugs that she wishes, and as the projectionist lights her cigarette, he assures her that she's pretty enough. When he asks about a husband, Pearl tells him that he's overseas, but since her father is ill, she has to stay home with him. He tells her that he's sorry to hear that as he makes his way back to the side door. He asks Pearl if she would like to see the second show and offers it to her free of charge. He finally reveals himself to be the projectionist. He's like, I am not real. Just kidding. Pearl thanks him for the offer and the cigarette, but says that her mother is waiting and she needs to get home. The projectionist asks her to hold on for a second before disappearing inside. He returns with a pair of scissors and a film strip. He cuts out a frame and presents it to Pearl, telling her that it's the movie she just watched. Pearl asks if he's not going to show it again, but he tells her that he only took one frame, and once he splices it together, no one will ever even notice. He tells her that caring for her family is admirable and she should take pride in it, but she can't forget to live her life too. Pearl looks up at him with starry eyes as he heads back toward the door. He tells her that he wouldn't mind seeing her up on the screen someday, Mrs. Pearl fills the silence by telling him her name, Pearl.
He's telling her literally everything she wants to hear.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then that frame, that would be such an amazing gift.
Yeah, I was like, so just fuck that film, right? Like,
well, yeah, we'll spice it together.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be fine. I will say, especially with how special of a gift it is, I would definitely make sure to keep it in a safe place.
No, don't do that.
Tuck it all the way into your pocket.
Why
maybe.
though?
Well, it needs to breathe too.
Yeah,
it needs to get scratched by this dirty Dust Bowl wind.
But the projectionist tells her that when she comes back to knock on his door, he's always here and he can run the shows as much as he wants. With a smile, Pearl tells him that she will before he disappears inside. She looks down at the frame of film in her hand and then at the projectionist's door before heading back out towards the street. As she bikes past the cornfield, Pearl smiles, remembering the dancing from the film. But as she goes along, the frame of film is ripped from the pocket of her overalls by the wind.
No, that's just your fault. It's halfway out.
Yeah,
It
I was
was.
gonna say ripped is a like the wind whispered on it.
Uh-huh.
And
The
it-
80% of that
yeah,
was Pearl.
it was
You know-
dangling out.
You know how you like hold like a baby to see the world around this baby? That's the way it was
She
sitting
wanted
in
him
there.
to see the corn. She wanted
Well,
it
it
to
was
see
a
the
dancer on the thing. It was.
But she notices immediately and gasps sharply before abandoning her bike and going on an impossible hunt for the tiny frame. She heads into the cornfield, surrounded by stalks as she looks desperately for her lost treasure. When she finally reaches the center of the cornfield, she is startled by crows flying away. She enters the clearing, though, and approaches the lone scarecrow in the field. The face of that scarecrow is scary as fuck.
Yeah.
I thought at some point this scarecrow is going to come to life
Yes.
during this
Yeah.
sequence.
Yes.
Because that looked like a legitimate human face.
Yeah.
Yes, it did.
A person closing their eyes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is a scarecrow heavy on the scare.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh my God.
I know I'm not fucking with that corn.
Yeah.
You got it, boss.
But she climbs up to the scarecrow until they're face to face and she asks him properly, "May I have this dance?" She immediately tosses it down onto the ground before jumping down herself. She picks up the black top hat that fell from his head and places it on her own. We cut to Pearl, dancing slowly with the scarecrow with her eyes closed as a waltz plays. She makes full use of the clearing, dancing and swaying with the music before finally dipping the scarecrow and planting a kiss on his lips.
It's a passionate one.
Yeah.
It is.
I was like, I'm getting Wizard of Oz. Oh, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
Sorry, I take it back.
That thing's so dirty.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
Probably got crow poop.
Oh yeah, wash your hands and your face and brush your
Roach
teeth and
Yeah, I didn't want to say.
Yeah,
it.
brush
yeah.
your teeth, brush your
Yes,
teeth.
please.
The kiss deepens, but when she pulls away and opens her eyes, the face of the projectionist opens his eyes, looking back at her from the scarecrow's body. Startled, Pearl drops the scarecrow and sees that it is normal again. She screams down at the stuffed effigy that she is married, but suddenly she's calm again and drops down, straddling the scarecrow. She places her fingers to her lips, telling him, "Shh," before placing the same finger against the scarecrow's mouth.
You're the one screaming.
yeah.
Pearl, this is all you.
It's not even 50-50.
Yeah, no, not
From
at all.
losing that frame
Uh-huh.
to this. But the shh thing,
Yeah.
that's also an X.
It
Yeah.
is. I'm telling you, man, this overlap between Pearl and Maxine, I really want it explained
Yeah.
Okay.
in Maxine because it feels almost like there's some time travel.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
We talked about thinking that could potentially be what was happening in X.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we'll see. We're still waiting on Maxine. But Pearl then takes Genuine's advice and starts to ride like a pony.
All right.
Moaning and yelling in pleasure until the crows fly away because this is not what they came here for.
Yeah, she's got that hay fever.
I also wrote a joke, but it's very reliant
Oh, no.
on the cast of The Wizard of Oz.
Okay.
I just said Ray Bulger, more like. Right?
Very good.
You get it.
All right. But when Pearl returns home in her post-nut clarity, she sees Ruth.
Jesus.
She had to get it out of her.
She had to. Now you can think clearly.
Yes. No,
Decision making is back where it should be.
I don't
Take
think
it
it
down.
is, dude.
You just look so disappointed. But Ruth is chopping wood in the front yard. She asks what took Pearl so long, and Pearl makes the excuse that it was a long ride, and she's not lying. When Ruth asks about the top hat still perched on Pearl's head, Pearl takes it off and says that she found it on the side of the road. Visibly disappointed in her daughter, Ruth tells her not to bring it inside. It could be covered in germs. She returns to chopping wood, instructing Pearl to go inside and wash her hair, because if she's lucky, she only got lice from that hat.
I thought that she would obviously know where the top hat came from because it's probably her scarecrow, Ruth's.
Oh, I didn't even think that was their property, but maybe.
Was it not? Oh. She's like,
it's just on the way to town. Yeah.
I don't know how much land they own.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because she was shucking corn for dinner. So I thought that was their
True.
corn.
Okay.
But I don't know. I just expected her to be like, you've been sleeping with that scarecrow? Again?
But when she's done with that, she needs to go change her father. She catches eyes with her daughter, telling her flatly to not leave him sitting in his own mess. Pearl just goes inside. In the bathroom, Pearl has her father sat next to the tub again as she bathes. She scrubs her hair like Ruth told her to, marveling at the movie she got to see today and detailing the talent of the dancers, because there is no room for error in a troupe like that. She guesses that it must be a charmed life to be a movie star. She stares ahead dreamily, but her gaze finally settles on her father. She looks over at his hand resting on his leg and reaches over with her soapy hand to pinch his finger hard. She looks up at his face for a reaction, and when he doesn't give one, she sits up in the tub. She jabs at his chin with her finger before bringing her face close to his and asking in a whisper if he's still in there. She traces her finger along his face before bracing her hand against his neck. She squeezes as her father lets out a weak groan, but this only makes her squeeze harder before letting go and allowing him to breathe.
So there's some stuff going on, I'd
Yeah.
say. Things.
So I'm not a fan of this.
Yeah. Again, tie. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like these flashes of her psychopathy are, I don't know. I feel like I would feel more for this character if we kind of get here. Instead of it just being like, we're just dropped in the middle of this. Okay. No, she's already killing things.
I can see that. Yeah, because it's already like, it's already like a snowball. Getting bigger and bigger as we jump in.
And that makes me think me and your sister were talking the other day, and I did say something similar to that. A lot of it is just us having to, I guess, imply or kind of like, okay, well, I guess that could have happened off screen and we don't know. You know what I mean? We don't know that. So instead of seeing it like you're saying or even getting little snippets of it, we're just supposed to already know that this is what's happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, they give us, the little bits, whatever, and then the cooked goose and all that shit. But I would have liked to see maybe, like you're saying, the lead up to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like even when I think of other character study kind of films like Taxi Driver, he starts off a little off.
Yeah.
But he gets progressively worse. But the first time we meet her, she's stabbing geese.
Yeah.
It does escalate.
She's pinching her father, choking his neck.
Yeah. The pinch, I was like, oh my God.
The pinch, I think that might have been enough.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, why would you do that's just sadistic.
Yeah. And even with something that she tells him later on, it's like, really, why are you doing that to him?
Yeah.
And I feel like he would be the only one that didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. Again, it's not the best time to be rewriting films.
No, yeah.
When you're recording an episode, but maybe there's something more sinister in like when her mother is sleeping. Maybe she looks at her, or maybe she does the pinch to her, and when she wakes up, she's like, "Mama, I heard you were," something like that.
I can see that. I feel like, and I think it was an interview with Collider that they asked Mia Goth if Pearl understands the difference between right and wrong. And Mia Goth said, yeah, she does, but she makes the wrong choices. She's fueled by emotion. Mm-hmm. And I feel like maybe she is purposefully hurting and torturing things that can't defend themselves. That goose he was no match for her. Like, you know what I mean?
Not with that big ass fork.
No. And they had a history.
Her mother could fight back. Right. And so I think that her father is in a state where he can't. He's ill. He's in this chair. He's unable to speak. He can't tell on her.
Yeah.
I think that it's very purposeful that is who she chooses to torture. Like, I mean, I don't know, but at the same time, and not getting too far ahead of ourselves, but she's like that her dad is a good man. Like, she loves her dad.
Yeah.
So she's just very, very sick. She's just sick.
That's why I think the source of her anger would make more sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she's kind of telling him all of her secrets and, confiding in him and things. And I don't know. I just think that maybe something with her mother would have been more effective for me.
I can see that for sure. I just feel like it's more sinister for me that it is. No, it's only stuff that can't defend.
Right.
Animals or people that cannot fight back or defend themselves or are defenseless against her. Because that goose he went about that life. He wasn't gonna bust a grape. It's not gonna happen.
Well, he went in there honking.
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
He was all honk.
Yeah.
That was But at dinner, Ruth prays over the meal once again, and once again, Pearl starts to dig into her soup. Ruth asks where the rest of the money she gave her is, and when Pearl says that there wasn't any money left, Ruth knows that isn't true. She should also be like, and why was the medicine half drank?
Yeah.
But she insists that she can count and there should have been 8 cents left. Spooning soup into her mouth, Pearl lies that maybe she got some hard candy for the ride home. Without a word, Ruth pulls the bowl away from Pearl. She reasons that candy was her dinner then, and the food that she had to prepare by herself isn't. Pearl is immediately upset, protesting that she rode all that way and she's starving, but Ruth tells her flatly that she can have what's left in the morning. Pearl stands up and starts to leave the room, but Ruth stops her. Pearl says that she's going to bed, but Ruth reminds her that she has not been excused from the table. She tells her in German to sit down. Pearl listens and sits back down across from her mother as Ruth continues that they barely have money in the house to feed themselves. Times have changed and she can't be so careless. She tells her daughter that it's up to the two of them and only the two of them to survive. She reminds her that she's seen how German farmers are treated here, and the only reason they're not sick or starving is because they're mindful of how they live. Pearl replies in English that she knows that and she is careful, but Ruth continues. She tells Pearl that she is not going to allow her to wander around in her fantasies and shirk her responsibilities anymore. She calls it a sign of weakness, and she was not raised to be weak. She asks if this is clear, and Pearl nods. At this, Ruth finally excuses her from the table.
There is a lot in what Ruth is saying that I get.
Yeah.
I think maybe, and we say this a lot, is about the delivery of it, because the lack of dinner in the 1918s is, 1920s or whatever.
Yeah.
1910s.
Yeah.
So many years in 1918.
All of them.
It's pretty rough.
Yeah.
But I will say I would be a little pissed off too if you were just supposed to go and get your dad some medicine and you are gone for hours. You're fornicating with a scarecrow.
Yeah.
You're going to see a movie. You're making new friends. You're drinking half the drugs I told you to get.
Yeah.
Money's gone, especially in this time. I made dinner by myself. Like, I get it.
Yeah. But again, looking at it through Pearl's lens, she's mean.
Yeah.
But it's like, dude, she's fighting for her life and y'all's lives too.
Yeah. And then this little heart-to-heart conversation.
Yeah.
You're like, all right. And again, it's just it's making me like Pearl less and less because I see this woman struggling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, just help. You know? And
It's the bare
instead,
minimum.
you're pinching and choking your father. Like,
Yeah.
and fucking dancing in the mirror and stuff.
Stealing dresses.
Yeah.
She did.
Yeah.
She did.
You can do that at night after,
Yeah.
you know?
But chop the wood.
Yeah. Times is hard.
In her bedroom, Pearl places a candle on her nightstand next to a framed photo of Howard. She kneels next to her bed to pray, and she asks the Lord to make her the biggest star the world has ever known so that she can get far, far away from here. I was like, okay, Jenny from fucking Forrest Gump. But anyway. Like, make me a bird. But she said,
It's like
but she settles into bed and blows out her candle. We glide past her and up to the window where a shooting star streaks across the sky.
So this was firstly just the framing of these shots,
Mm-hmm.
the light of the window, trees outside, etc. I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
I really did think that something very whimsical and magical was about to happen.
Yeah.
Because you literally did, unbeknownst to Pearl, make a wish on a wishing star. On a shooting star. It is a wishing star.
Yeah.
It is.
These are the ones you're supposed to wish on.
Right.
And so I was really expecting something. And although it does set that up for her and she does have main character syndrome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I'm like, did that really happen? You know what I mean?
I think I would question its reality if she was looking out the window at the time.
Okay. Yeah.
It just feels very do you remember in James and the Giant Peach when he's like, my name is James? It feels like that song when it's like, okay, in the morning everything's about to change.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or when you wish upon a star.
Yeah. That's probably better.
Well, but you sang the other one. So.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? It's like this is, you know, in her mind.
Right.
Her trials, like her Cinderella moment, you know, it's coming.
Okay.
And another thing about Pearl that bothers me, I just want to say, like, look, indulge in your creativity.
Right.
Everyone listening, very important.
Of course.
But her self-centered behavior,
Yeah.
because her wanting to be a star and become a star has nothing to do with helping her family at all. She doesn't even mention these people.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm gone.
Yeah.
The fuck
I'm
out of here,
leaving
dude.
and you'll never see this face again. And it's like, well, you like have some like look how your mother just explained how much she's struggling.
Right.
Yeah.
Help. Be a star.
And she immediately goes to her bedroom and she's like, God, please get me the fuck out of here.
I never want to see these fucking people again. It's like, dude.
Well,
In 1 year and out there.
well, again, though, she is, if you're looking at it through Pearl, her mom's being a bitch.
Yes.
She's stomping on her fun. She's
yes.
like,
In her dreams.
yeah. But you're right. I mean, help, dude.
Yeah.
She
You
is
have to.
helping, but I mean, come on. You know you need to do some shit around the house.
And not the shit you've been doing.
Yeah, no.
The next morning, as Pearl milks Charlie, she's distracted when she hears a car drive onto the property. Now, again, this is mirroring another milking scene from X.
Yeah.
And also, wasn't the movie The Farmer's Daughter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pearl is
The farmer's
daughter,
yeah.
you know? But she heads out with the pail just in time to see Mitzi, played by Emma Jenkins Purro, hop out of the car. Mitzi is wearing a pristine and pretty white dress with a fox stole around her shoulders. Her blonde hair hangs in ringlets under her wide-brimmed hat, and they bounce as she rushes over to Pearl in her overalls, with her hair hidden beneath her bandana. Pearl compliments Mitzi's dress, and Mitzi admits that it's just nice to be able to get dressed up again. They haven't gone anywhere in weeks because her mother is so afraid of getting sick. Pearl agrees that her mom is too, as she glances over to the front door of the farmhouse. Mitzi's mother, Margaret, played by Amelia Reed, presents a dish containing a roasted pig to Ruth, and the two stand strikingly opposite, just as Pearl and Mitzi do. Mitzi says that they were worried about them being here alone, so they brought them some food. She asks how Pearl is doing and if she's gotten any letters from Howard. Pearl doesn't give much of an answer, and Mitzi says that they've been worried, but no news is good news. She just wishes that Howard's pride hadn't gotten him into all this in the first place. She says that they even had a doctor willing to declare him ineligible. Anyone would have jumped at that, but Howard didn't. First, he ran off to be a farmer. Now he's gone off with the army. She laughs at the lengths her brother will go through to spite her father.
I will say that I appreciate it as far as exposition
Yes.
and relation of characters.
Yeah.
Talked about it on Stay Alive,
Yeah.
where it was not good.
We're siblings.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Every 5 minutes for the first scene they're in. That sister of mine. It's like, what?
It does make sense, too, that they're not just neighbors or something. Like, they're family.
Yeah.
So them coming to bring them food and stuff, like, it should... We'll talk about how it's received
Right.
in a second. But Mitzi prattles on that the isolation has been maddening, and Pearl agrees. Her eyes return to their mothers on the porch, and we hear Ruth say firmly that they do not accept charity.
So the line about the isolation being maddening, is that to imply that this is when Pearl has just broken?
Oh, maybe.
Because the way she answers, she's like, "You tell me about it."
Yeah. She's like, you have no fucking idea.
I killed a goose yesterday.
And I choked my father.
You did what?
But annoyed, Margaret sets the dish down on the porch, muttering, "For God's sake, it's just a pig."
I get it. But I also understand Ruth is very
Proud.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's like the gesture of it. Or maybe I guess she doesn't want to be seen that way either. Because I'm like, you could take the pig inside and just not do anything with it.
Yeah.
Or it could be even more difficult for Pearl to see the pig go inside. And she's like, so when are we eating this thing?
Yeah.
And she's like, we're not eating it.
Yeah.
But instead, she's like, if you don't get that pig out of my face. In plain sight of everyone.
But like, again, this is not some like rich family in town that's just
No.
These are your in-laws. Like, this is your daughter's mother-in-law.
That's what I was
You
going to
know?
say. I felt like if they were neighbors, it would probably make it it would be like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
But for it being your family,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Or even that, it's your, you know what I mean? Through marriage,
Yeah.
that's still your family and there is some kind of history there. Just take the pig and eat
It's
it.
like, damn,
Just
Yeah.
eat it. Yeah. I thought we were cool.
I will say, and there is a line coming up from Mitzi soon regarding these pigs, that does kind of make it
Yeah.
feel
Yeah.
mildly different.
Yeah.
Right.
But maybe if that line wasn't there, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because she's like, we got about like 4 or 5 more
Yeah.
pigs to drop off. So I got to get out of here. But great seeing you.
Yeah.
But bye, girl.
But even that, doesn't that make it feel like they're trying to do something nice?
It does.
Yeah.
So then why?
I will say Mitzi and her mother are good people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they are. And
And-
again, but from Ruth, you know,
Yeah.
it's a very proud perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But Mitzi glances over at this too before lowering her voice and asking if she can share a secret with Pearl. Pearl nods and the two take a few steps deeper into the barn. I also want to say we've been talking about the color. The blue of Mitzi's eyes is like hypnotizing.
Yeah.
Like her eyes are impossibly blue.
I wrote that down in my notes that they are piercingly blue.
Yes.
And I didn't know if it was a matter of the color correction or if this is just the actress's eyes.
Yeah.
And it is the actress's eyes.
They
Really?
are
Yeah.
stunning.
Damn, yeah.
They're gorgeous. But lowering her voice, Mitzi confides in Pearl that her mother would kill her if she knew she was going. But there's a dance audition for the Christmas chorus line at the church on Saturday. Pearl is hanging on every word as Mitzi continues that they're putting together a troupe to travel to 7 different cities. Mitzi says that she would love to be a part of it, and Pearl adds that she would too. This excites Mitzi, and she says in a feverish whisper that they should go together then. She warns Pearl that she can't tell a soul, but Pearl promises seriously that she would never. Mitzi smiles brightly, telling Pearl that it'll just be their secret then. Pearl smiles back at her, and Margaret interrupts the moment when she yells out for Mitzi. Mitzi explains that she has to go because they've got 3 more pigs to drop off.
The car smells great.
Yeah.
I'm starving. But she tells Pearl with a smile, Saturday at 11. Pearl nods, and when Mitzi tells her that sister-in-laws have to stick together, she grins. Margaret yells for her daughter again, and Mitzi rushes off. Pearl calls it goodbye after her and rushes into the barn. She squats down so that she's eye level with Charlie the cow through the slats of the pen. She tells Charlie excitedly that this could be it before planting a big kiss on her nose.
So for Pearl, this is that night wish coming true.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Okay.
This is that
okay.
big ass peach starting
Yeah.
Did I do that? I don't know. Yeah.
Did I do
The
that?
next morning. But I think, I don't know, it's just very sad seeing Mitzi and this excitement that she's sharing with Pearl.
Yeah.
And this, again, it feels like we have this thing. It's a secret between us.
Yeah.
why let's be friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think in to Mitzi they are.
Yeah. You mean all this time?
We
Yeah.
could have been friends. But we star wipe to Pearl crossing the property.
I'm not gonna lie. This for me was it didn't work as well for me.
Really?
It's kind of a sitcom like transition, and I was like, I'm not feeling this. I'm not receiving what you're putting out.
For me, it's just capturing the era.
I liked it a lot. I liked it better than that toggle thing they were doing in X.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that was weird too. But this still, I don't know. Maybe I just don't. Maybe Ty's transitions don't work for me. I mean, maybe.
You're really going pretty heavy on this first name basis.
No, he's cool. He's all right. Yeah.
You're like, don't worry about it.
But no, yeah. I do get what it's supposed to do, but I don't know why. It just it was a little. I don't even want to say jarring, but it was just like okay.
Well, maybe if they leaned into it more.
Yeah. Okay.
Like,
okay. Yeah.
Because it does kind of come out of the blue sometimes.
Yeah.
When
maybe
other
that's
scenes
what it is.
Don't.
Those.
Well, I would maybe like to examine at what points they do happen, because this is a high point
Right.
for her.
Okay.
Dream-wise.
Okay.
Yeah. But we watch from the windows as Pearl approaches a very familiar looking bunkhouse across from the farmhouse. I was happy to see it.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
But next to broken toys scattered under the bed is the top hat. Pearl sits down and picks it up, looking into it at the folded playbill for Palace Follies. She takes it out and looks longingly at the dancing women on the cover. She sees the film in black and white again, but this time, alone on the stage, is her, blowing kisses to her captive audience. Pearl rushes to the farmhouse quickly and quietly and goes upstairs to her parents' room. She looks out the window and sees her mother working in the garden with her father sitting in his chair close by. After making sure they're occupied, Pearl opens up her mother's wardrobe and searches through the dresses inside before snatching one. She looks out the window again, but both of her parents are gone. It's like, oh, fuck. She hurries and leaves the room, but as soon as she steps into the narrow hallway, her mother calls out to her from downstairs. Pearl sneaks into another room to hide and closes the door quietly as Ruth climbs the stairs. Annoyed, she calls out for her daughter again before giving up and going back down. With her gone, Pearl peeks her head out of the room and rushes to her own bedroom.
See, again, the guarding would sure be a lot easier with two people
Yeah.
doing this. Be cool if I had a
hand
out here.
Thanks, Pearl. In her room, Pearl drapes the dress over her and looks at her reflection in the mirror, posing with the top hat on her head. That night, we watch as Pearl sneaks out of her window in the stolen dress. She hurries along the roof before dropping down onto the ground below, the bright moon above her the only witness. Fog creeps along the stalks of the cornfield as Pearl rides her bike past.
That shot's amazing.
Yes.
I read in Filmmaker Magazine, none of that is CG. They used fog kits and just very intricate lighting.
Wow.
Okay.
It looks gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
But she rides into town right up to the Embassy Theater. She finally brings her bike to a stop in front of a poster for Cleopatra starring Theda Bara.
Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
But she makes her way down the dark alley and knocks on the projectionist's door. He opens it to reveal Pearl standing in the dress and top hat, and he's pleased, telling her that he didn't expect to see her again so soon.
There is that shot of her in the alley.
Yeah.
Silhouette, top hat. It gives Jack the Ripper.
Oh,
damn.
that's
Okay.
great. That's great.
Yeah.
Pearl follows behind him as he leads her through the back of the theater to the projection room.
So I want to talk about this entire sequence really quick.
Mm-hmm.
And this set design and production design.
Okay.
Because the exterior of the theater, they're using a real theater in New Zealand, but they've just added these facades to make it appear 1918.
Right.
Okay.
And so whenever Pearl is taken inside by the projectionist, they're filming at another location, a real vintage theater in New Zealand, to get this walkway with the ropes and everything.
Oh, wow.
And then when they get to the projection room, this is a set.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So this short thing that lasted probably 30 seconds was 3 different. Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
3 different locations. Interesting thing about this projection room, though, is this is kind of what I was talking about as far as a love letter to the history of cinema.
Yeah.
Because back then, and they talked about it in that interview I read, the production designer, they wanted to maintain historical accuracy. And so projection rooms back then, and we learned this in Inglourious Bastards about nitrate film being very flammable and potentially explosive.
Yeah.
And so projection rooms back then had to have concrete walls covered in lead panels coated in green flame-proof paint. And so we see that
Yeah, we do.
in this room.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That very specific green color paint.
Yeah.
And they wanted to get a real nitrate film projector in this room.
Oh, wow.
The one that they used in this film, they said, is the only one in New Zealand.
Wow.
Damn.
And so it's just very remarkable the lengths they went to for
Yes.
this.
Yeah.
Just this room.
For the authenticity.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this whole room looks really cool.
Yeah, it
does.
does.
This almost seems like if you were to go to a museum and they have it like blocked off.
Yeah.
And you just like take a look in the history, in the past or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this would be set up.
Mm-hmm.
and for it to be a set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's no way he heard her knock from over here all the way from that back.
It's like, and then we have to cross this moat.
Yeah.
It's like, what? You didn't hear
Yeah.
that.
Knock on my door anytime.
He's like, I'll see you on my Ring camera.
Yeah.
Just text me when you get here. But Pearl marvels the entire way, and once inside, he invites her to have a seat on the couch in the corner. The room does seem to double as his apartment with the bed on the opposite side of the room, and once Pearl sits down, the projectionist starts to pour them drinks. She tells him that she can't believe he gets to see the movies for free every day, and he agrees that it's not a bad gig. She takes off her hat and sets it on the back of the couch, and when he presents her with the drink, she takes it. The two clink glasses, and she drinks. Leaning against a table on the opposite side of the small room, he asks her to what he owes the pleasure. Pearl admits that she's been thinking a lot about the advice he gave her to not forget to live her life. She tells him about the dance audition at the church, and he tells her that he likes the sound of that, and she agrees that she does too, but she's never danced in front of anyone before. She wonders, what if I'm not perfect? The projectionist assures her that she can do anything if she wants it badly enough, and she asserts that she wants it. He says, then don't let anything stand in your way. He asks what she would like to see, and she answers him dreamily, Palace Follies. He dismisses this with a wave, telling her that she's seen that one already. He ponders for a moment before selecting a reel, asking, what about a film that nobody's seen? Pearl agrees with a smile. As he loads the projector, he explains that he picked this up when he was in the service in France. Pearl finally eyes the bed on the other side of the room and asks if he lives in here. He chuckles, reasoning that he lays his head on that pillow from time to time, but he doesn't really live anywhere in particular. He says that he's bohemian, which was interesting because that's what Howard called them in X.
Yeah.
He's still salty, and I don't fucking blame him. I don't blame him. When Pearl admits that she doesn't know what that is, he explains that it means he can just pack up and leave whenever he wants to. Pearl says that that sounds like a dream, and finishing up his work, the projectionist adds, just as long as I can keep from waking up.
And that's good dialogue.
Yeah.
It is. He claps his hands together and starts the film. Pearl stares at the projector in action, but the projectionist directs her to the window that shows the film playing down below. Pearl watches. 2 women walk along the road in the silent film when a car stops and the driver offers them a ride. Pearl asks what film this is, but instead of answering, the projectionist tells her to just watch. The women get in the car and drive away, and immediately we see a woman and a man making out outside. Pearl's eyebrow arches as the man pulls up the woman's dress to reveal her to be nude underneath. The couple continue to caress and grope each other. The projectionist speaks up from behind her that she's never seen anything like that before, huh? The women strut around naked as he continues that there's all kinds of underground stag films like this. Enraptured, Pearl asks if it's legal. The projectionist says that doing it is, but filming it isn't.
It made me think of Taxi Driver when Travis takes Betsy to the porno theater on the first date. And he's like, well, everybody loves it.
It's like, what's the matter?
Yeah, people come here all the time. Yeah.
They do?
They do.
Yeah.
Well, I just co-signed on a very filthy joke.
Like, yes, they do.
They do. That's how they stay in business.
Yeah.
But Pearl continues to watch the trio prancing around. The projectionist elaborates that it's illegal here at least, but it won't be forever because people would pay an arm and a leg to see this. He says that these kinds of films are going to revolutionize the industry and he wants to capitalize on it early. I thought he was going to be like, I can make you a star.
Mm-hmm.
Like it felt like maybe that's why she had such a reaction to Maxine, because that was what she was trying to do.
And she was basically telling her, we're more alike than...
Yeah.
And I thought the same exact thing, but that really doesn't come into play.
No.
He's like, I'm going to sell these. like, oh, okay.
Well, the way that he said he wants to capitalize on it.
He did.
You want to be a star.
Exactly.
I think you're beautiful. You know what I mean? Like it really felt, I was like, oh.
It seems like he's preparing to...
Yes.
Yeah.
But I guess not.
But they're fully having a threesome on the screen as the projectionist's calm voice rationalizes that this is reality. It's undeniable that we all have a fascination with seeing people the way they are. Very interesting line.
Mm-hmm.
Pearl finally turns away from the small window to admit that she doesn't like reality. Not where she lives anyway. I did, now that we're moving on, want to talk about the film really quick. This is a real stag film.
Oh, very nice.
It's called A Free Ride, and from what I was reading about it, people say that it's the first quote unquote hardcore American porn.
Oh, very nice.
It was released underground, obviously, in 1915, and the identities of the performers were concealed. The man wears a fake mustache, and I guess like during the film it falls off and he hides his face until he can put it back on.
Right.
And the women are credited as jazz girls, and the director credit is a wise guy. Like it's very tongue-in-cheek, you know? But they said that at the time, people assumed that the performers were poverty-stricken or addicts.
What?
But film historians now are like, no, they believe that they were well off.
Well, they look like they're having fun. They're getting fresh air. I mean, what more?
They're touching grass.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
How in touch with reality can you be?
You know?
I don't understand this idea of that, because it's like they had to have this camera and technology.
Yes.
I think that it was just
an assumption.
Scandalous. Yeah. And no upstanding citizen would ever do this.
I think as long as there have been cameras.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The invention of the camera.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This is the first thing that was filmed.
The first picture ever taken was a dick pic.
Right.
You guys didn't know that?
Right, you guys didn't get that?
Yeah. But I thought it was interesting. It was screened at the opening of the Museum of Sex in New York.
Oh, wow.
Oh, hell yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty important to like the history of film, and that was what we watched here. That was really it.
Well, I'll have to go check the whole thing out.
Like I'll do the research.
No, don't worry.
He did lie about it being from Europe, though, so.
That is a lie. Yeah.
That is one mark against.
Yeah. It's like, no.
This gentleman.
This gentleman. But the projectionist sits on the couch telling her to just leave then. Not leave the room. Leave where she's at. Pearl sits next to him, countering that it's not that easy. But the projectionist disagrees. It is that easy. There's a road right outside that'll take her all the way to New York City. Pearl says that one day when her parents are gone, she can do what she wants. But the projectionist asks, what if that's too late? He says that we only get one chance at life, and if you don't make the most of it when you're young, you don't get a second chance. Pearl says if only they would just die.
Wow.
The projectionist goes, pardon? And catching his expression, Pearl says, nothing. It's like, what? What?
Yeah.
Like, no, I still heard what you
said.
said.
Like, no, I heard you.
Now you can leave.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now leave this room. She changes the subject quickly, saying that it's just nice to have someone to talk to for a change, because after being stuck on that farm for so long, sometimes she worries that she might not be the same as other people. The projectionist chuckles at this, asking why she would ever want to be like anyone else. Pearl admits that she doesn't know, but sometimes it seems like it would be more peaceful. The projector begins to click, having run out of film, and he goes over to it. Pearl asks if he meant what he said about wanting to see her on the screen, and he says that he did. She tells him that she would do anything to be up there, and he advises her to go overseas once the pandemic ends, because that's what he's going to do. That's what he's
Yes.
going to do.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you for making that distinction.
Yes.
Because someone seems to take this
Yeah.
and heard something completely different from what was actually said.
He tells her that the arts are just more alive in Europe. She can do whatever she wants there. She could even be in movies like the one he just showed her. He tells her, I know I'd watch you. Pearl's smile drops and she rises to her feet, telling him that she should probably be leaving. She thanks him, and when he asks what for, she says, for seeing me tonight.
Now, do you think she's saying for seeing me tonight or for seeing me tonight?
I think for seeing me, because there later on is an emphasis on what did you see? What did you see?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Okay.
you know, and
Yeah,
it's something that her mother says too. I think that
It's about
feeling seen.
perception.
Yeah,
Yes.
I again want to have sympathy for Pearl in this moment because these dreams are very relatable.
Yeah.
This feeling of isolation, of stagnation, of being stuck.
Mm-hmm.
But literally 2 hours ago, she was just choking her daddy.
Yeah.
Not daddy.
She was, dude.
That's the thing. And I feel like a lot of people really love the character of Pearl. I do find her pretty fascinating, but I think that there is a line between there being aspects to her life that are relatable or that you feel sympathy for.
Yes.
But still needing to acknowledge that this is a very, very sick person. And just because you can empathize with her circumstances does not mean that it's like, you know what? Good for her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a big and I feel like the Good for Her films, which I'm a big fan of, the net's getting a little too wide. Y'all need to calm down on some of these. Some of these are not good for her films. They're just not.
There's some questionable.
Yeah. And I do get what he's saying, and you should take time for yourself.
Yes.
And you should but you can't just be balls to the wall 24/7. Like,
No.
you do have responsibilities. There is things when you need to slow down. Like even him, he's like, I can pick up, leave what I want, but you're here working.
But you're working
Yeah.
a job.
Yeah.
And the fact that, there is a difference between don't forget to live your life too. And why don't you see if your dad reacts to you choking him? Like,
Yeah,
that's not,
Yeah.
that wasn't the advice.
No.
Like, that's not what we're doing here. She's sick. She's very ill.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me when people watch Fight Club and idolize Tyler Durden.
Yes.
It's like you are missing.
You missed the entire point.
That is not
the whole point.
What you're taking away from this.
Yeah.
Or you
There-
should.
Yes. There
Or
is.
it's not what you should.
Yes. We got there.
Yeah, we figured it out.
There is an attractiveness to that character. There is an enticement to that
Okay.
character, but that is the point. It's a glamour. You know what I mean? But if you take away from, man, what a fucking badass, it's like, whoa.
No, dude.
Yeah.
Maybe we should watch it again.
And I'll provide commentary.
Yeah,
Maybe I'll watch it with you next time. We cut to Pearl sneaking back into her room at the farmhouse. She tiptoes theatrically across the room to her bed, but she freezes when she hears her mother sobbing in her room. She exits her room and creeps down the stairs as foreboding music plays.
I think it's this sequence. There is a shot of a hallway, a window, and a door. And it's very reminiscent from when I know Brittany Snow, but was it Bobby Lynn from X?
Yes, yeah.
I think it's when she sneaks out of a room. It's very reminiscent,
Oh, okay.
like similarly shot.
Yeah.
There are a lot of moments like that in framing and stuff, and I love that.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. When she reaches her mother's room, she pushes the door open quietly. Ruth lies in bed with her back to the door, sobbing. Pearl finally returns to her own room and lies in bed, gazing at the framed picture of Howard. Abruptly, she asks him what he's staring at.
Is that you talking to me?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Because I don't see anyone else here.
You must be talking to me. Yeah, I can see that.
You know?
The next morning, with the cloudy sky and thunder rumbling overhead, Pearl leaves the house with her father as Ruth watches from the upstairs window. She pushes his chair to the end of the dock, perching it right on the edge. She calls out for Theta, and as the alligator glides over to her quietly, she tells her father that she's leaving soon. Pushing the chair just a little more over the edge, Pearl says that she can't stay here any longer. Howard was supposed to take her away. She admits that it would be easier for her if she didn't feel like she was abandoning him. She pushes him more still, telling him that she loves him, but this is no way to live. Her father's breathing quickens as the alligator creeps closer. Finally, the tense moment is broken when her mother calls her name from behind them. Pearl turns to her, looking incredibly guilty. Ruth asks her what she's doing, and Pearl answers innocently, "Talking to Daddy." Do y'all think she was about to fucking kill him?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I don't understand what her excuse would be.
Yeah, really.
You know?
Yeah.
She likes, or he likes, he listens better when he's dangling over, when he's dangling over a beast that could kill him.
That's
I don't.
Yeah, I was waiting. I was like, you're going to feed your dad to that fucking alligator, aren't
But
you?
like the way that she is like choking him, but then letting him breathe. I'm like, was she trying to scare him? Was she threatening him? Or was she really going to do it? Because but what she's saying is, it would be better if I didn't feel like I was abandoning you.
Yeah, yeah.
Like if you weren't here, I wouldn't be abandoning. Like what the fuck is this?
I don't know.
She's selfish.
I'm starting to think Pearl's not a very good person. Ruth says that they need to get him back to the house, but Pearl asks, "Why do you hate me?" Ruth says that she only wants what's best, but Pearl asks, "What about what she wants?" Ruth walks across the dock to her, telling her that one day she'll understand that getting what you want isn't what's important. Making the most of what you have is. She makes sure her husband's sweater is properly covering him before pulling his chair backwards, away from the dock. She tells Pearl that life rarely turns out how you expect it to, and she needs to be prepared for that if she ever wants to be happy. As she leaves, she tells Pearl to come back inside, but Pearl just looks longingly back out over the still lake. Theta is nowhere in sight.
In this moment, I feel like Ruth is a very well-rounded character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because she's pragmatic, but she's cynical because of the life that she's living.
Yeah.
She's trying to prepare Pearl for a difficult life because that's the hand that she was dealt.
Yeah.
Maybe she also had lofty expectations. She sees her daughter and she sees how dangerous it was for her
Yeah.
and is trying to prepare her for that. But then on the other side, Pearl is very ambitious in some ways, but also very like, I don't know, it's just like this difficulty for me with the petulance of blaming everyone else.
Yeah.
It's good to have dreams,
Mm-hmm.
but the blame resting on everyone else's shoulders and everyone holding you back,
Yeah.
it's a little tiring.
Well,
Yeah.
she's got tunnel vision.
Yeah.
You know, it's I want what I want and I want it now. And like we all do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's just not, you have responsibilities, you have things and people that need to be taken care of. You got to juggle it. You know what I mean? Look at what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're not like, okay, fuck it. We're quitting our jobs. Fuck our family and whatever. It's like, no, if that is the goal that you're working for, you have to add it to the balls that you're juggling. You know what I mean? Like that is what it is. But she doesn't understand that. She doesn't have the critical thinking or the logic to get that.
There is a balance between all dreams and no dreams.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And in the middle of that is a lot of work.
Yeah.
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 And I feel like, I don't know, because before Mitzi came up to her with this dance audition, she's just like, I'm a star.
Yeah.
Right.
You're right. There were no plans in place. There was nothing.
And I'm going to leave this place how?
Yeah.
but I am going to leave it.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know, man.
No, I get it. I think for me, it's just her, because like I said, I get it, because for me, it's like, okay, Pearl wants to leave.
Yeah.
And like you said, she's got no exit plan.
Mm-mm.
But I feel like, too, what's happening, or anyway, the way I'm taking it is she's not being nurtured. It's just do. Look, I'm suffering. You need to be suffering too, is how she's seeing it. And I get it. You know what I mean? Her mom is trying, and she is trying to tell her the right way. But again, it's very, like you said, tunnel vision. And I think you're right, babe. I don't think she understands. It's just like, look, I need to go. I need to get out of here. I've got to get off this fucking farm. You know what I mean? Because she's never been told, yes, one day you will have your own life. Yes, it's just when me and your father are gone, you take this over.
Yeah.
You have to do this. You have to, and it's just like, God damn, dude, at least give her some kind of crumb of hope, because now it's just driving her fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And it's the cynicism from Ruth's experiences.
Yeah.
Bleeding through.
It's
Yeah.
a perfect storm of just misery. And I feel like part of it is too, not like I have these dreams. It's I'm better than this. I don't want to be like you. I don't want to stay here. That's part of it.
Yeah.
But Pearl walks around, calling out for Theta as thunder rumbles again overhead. She sees Theta's tail for a second as she swims further into the water, but something else has caught Pearl's attention. She finds a nest with a cluster of eggs at its center. She goes quickly back into the barn and climbs the ladder. Once up there, she pulls an egg from her overalls and places it softly on the hay. She climbs down and starts to make her way to the barn doors, but stops when Charlie the cow moos at her. I was like, no, Charlie, be quiet.
Yeah.
And now she's going to fight a cow.
Yeah.
Cool.
You saw what happened to the last animal that interrupted. He's probably like, I'm fucking hungry, dude.
I think they fight a cow in Kung Pao. I think he fights a cow in that movie.
I think I saw it in the trailer when I was a kid.
Charlie's like, bring it, bitch. I don't care. Pearl stops in her tracks, and when she looks at Charlie, the cow really does look pissed off as it gazes back at her. She's like, move out of my face. Pearl demands that the animal stop staring at her, and Charlie obeys, turning her head away. Pearl climbs the ladder back up to the egg and takes it into her hand. She imagines Howard walking up to the farmhouse again while she's hanging the laundry. Howard waves at her with a smile on his face just as Pearl grips the egg tighter. Howard suddenly explodes as the egg bursts in her hands. The mess is a mixture of white, yellow, and red as it drips from her hand.
So just a couple things. What I thought this scene was going to be, because this is a gator egg, isn't it?
Oh,
Oh,
shit.
maybe.
I thought this was like the little origin story of the the other
new one?
gator. And then she squeezed. I was like, well, that's not right.
Yeah.
Maybe it is Theta in it.
Yeah, maybe they do live 80 years. But the explosion.
Yeah.
I was very impressed by this, and I assumed that it was CG.
Yeah.
And I learned that it was not.
Oh, wow.
It looked good.
They actually, what they did is they have an actor hit the mark,
Uh-huh.
and then they match it with a dummy that's filled with all kinds of like meat and fake blood and all this stuff.
Okay.
And then they literally explode that dummy.
Damn.
But it was matched so perfectly
Yeah.
that I was very impressed.
No, it
No.
looks great.
Yeah, that looks really cool. I do like this whole scene. I just feel like maybe this should have came a little earlier. But I know that the opening that we get is good when she's feeding Thea.
Mr. Goose.
No,
Theta.
yeah, Theta. Sorry, but I feel like this should have been a ramp up. This and then maybe something bigger.
Escalation.
Yeah.
So you're saying before the goose.
Right, but how would we have done that?
Or maybe it's the goose's egg, and he's like, ah!
Hey, what the fuck? Yeah. That's why he ran in there talking shit.
Yeah. And then, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
I think that the ramp up would definitely make more sense, but that opening is just too perfect.
Yeah.
That night, it is pouring outside as the family sits down to dinner. They eat in silence until Ruth places something down on the table. It's the playbill from Palace Follies. She slides it in Pearl's direction, and there's no use in denying it. Pearl simply asks how she found it, and Ruth tells her that she is not blind to what goes on around here. With lightning flashing in the window behind her, Ruth tells Pearl to take her dinner and go to the bunkhouse. Pearl immediately protests that it is freezing outside, but Ruth is not trying to hear it. She tells her that she should have thought of that before putting the family at risk. Now she needs to do what's right and isolate herself until she knows she's not sick. Ruth drops her eyes to her plate, no longer looking her daughter in the face, and Pearl sees it fit to take this moment to tell her mother that she's going to the dance audition tomorrow. Still calmly eating her food, Ruth tells her plainly that she isn't, but Pearl doubles down that she is.
I just realized in this moment I'm kind of getting a little bit of Carrie too.
Oh, damn,
yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because wasn't it storming that night as well? And
Yeah. But Carrie is a good for her film.
Yes.
Yeah, that's different.
That's
Yes.
different.
Yeah.
But you have the dance, you have the prom.
Absolutely.
Like all of it. The
Yeah.
mother not being supportive
Yeah.
or telling her that it's not going to work out. It's very interesting.
Plus, I mean, we are about to have a they're all going to laugh at you moment too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's a very good observation.
Thank you.
But Pearl says she's going to find out if she's good enough. Ruth asks, good enough for what? Pearl looks at her mother, then at her father before turning back and telling her something more than this.
This, to me, kind of surprised me, that line of dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
Because for Pearl, it never seemed to be a matter of, am I? Until she talked to the projectionist.
Yeah.
Because before she's like, look, pig, I'm a star.
Yeah.
Cow.
That's true.
And I'm
Goose.
leaving.
Yeah.
What did that goose say?
Yeah, he's like, bitch, no, you're not.
But so it was surprising to me that she's having this very human moment of doubt.
Yeah.
Because it didn't seem like that was her feeling before.
I think, again, we're dealing with anybody that she has confided these dreams in cannot communicate back to her. And so finally somebody can, and he has been encouraging, but maybe him being like, oh, you're pretty enough is like, oh, was there a chance that I wasn't? Like, you know?
Okay.
I mean, I don't know, but that definitely was a turning point. Or getting feedback and realizing, oh, maybe this isn't just a dream. Maybe I actually could.
Feedback like from the sheep?
Right.
Because he seemed pretty supportive.
He was. With the storm raging, Ruth questions where her ungratefulness is coming from. She points out that Pearl has always had food and a roof over her head. Does she not realize that this comes at great sacrifice from her parents? She asks if she thinks that they're beneath her. Pearl reasons that if she's meant to stay on the farm forever, then so be it, but she's only young once. Have you been talking to that projection?
Yeah.
She promises that if she goes to the audition and she doesn't get picked, then she will come back home to the farm and never speak another word about it. I don't believe that for a second.
No.
Yeah.
Especially with how...
There's evidence, actually.
Yeah, let's just say it's not handled gracefully.
She says that if she doesn't know she tried, she'll regret it for the rest of her life. She pleads with her mother, telling her that she has no idea what she's capable of. But this is when Ruth flips the script. She knows exactly what Pearl is capable of. She's seen the things that Pearl does when she thinks she's alone and no one is watching. Pearl drops her eyes, but Ruth continues. She asks if Pearl really thinks no one will notice because she can't keep her true self hidden forever. People will notice and they'll be afraid, just like she is.
I will say a very reasonable request from Pearl. Let me
Try. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so again, I was very surprised by this because of what we've seen of Pearl previously.
Yeah, she's not known for being reasonable.
No. And Ruth is right. She is capable of a lot.
Yeah.
And not just the scarecrow business.
Much worse.
Much worse. Some would say that's the most okay thing she's done.
Tearfully, Pearl tells her that she's wrong. Ruth laughs bitterly. She sarcastically marvels at what a fine woman Pearl is trying to become, leaving her mother alone to rot so she can dance with whores in the city. She brings up the illness that Pearl may get and spread. She tells her to look at what it's done to her father and asks if that's what she wants for herself and others. Or maybe it's just what she wants for her mother. I was like, oh, that is what happened to her father.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So again, is the way that she is going about it the most sweet and cuddly way? No. But Ruth has every fucking right to be this afraid of her bringing a sickness home.
Mm-hmm.
Look at how it has affected their family. And it makes me wonder, too, what was Ruth's life before all of this? Those dresses that Pearl is wearing, they're Ruth's.
That's why I said maybe she had lofty dreams of her own.
Yeah.
And she had to, unfortunately,
weigh what was important.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, that's not a factor in anything for Pearl.
Right.
Pearl says, of course, that's not what she wants. But Ruth slams her fist down on the table, demanding that she stop lying.
And Ruth is right, because literally just a few scenes ago, she was talking to the projection. She's like, it'd be cool if they died, dude.
Yeah.
Both of them. Both. It'd be so easy.
What?
What? Nothing?
But Ruth tells her that she can't stand the sound of her lies. It's almost as abhorrent as her sinful behavior. She snatches up the playbill and rips it up. She tells Pearl desperately that she is not well, and it's only a matter of time before she hurts someone. She can see the malevolence festering in her, and she won't in good conscience let her leave this farm again.
So this is the moment where it kind of shifts, because you feel like it is kind of a Carrie situation, and she's protecting Pearl from the world, and it's a little bit of both. She's protecting the world from Pearl, too.
And then you think about it, in both times, well, I guess 2 out of 3 times that Pearl is with her dad alone, Ruth comes in and she's like, what are you doing? It's like she is like, on guard. Pearl tells her quietly that she can't stop her, but Ruth insists that she can. Pearl has no idea what she can do. She doesn't understand the burden, Ruth's words, that she carries of having to take care of her husband. She asks if Pearl really dares to sit across from her and tell her about regret when she was supposed to be this man's wife and not his mother. She screams at Pearl never to speak to her that way again. Pearl offers a quiet apology, but Ruth yells that she's not sorry or else she would stop. She jumps to her feet and brandishes a knife at Pearl. Pearl gets up as well and backs away, but her mother insists that she take the knife because that's what she really wants, isn't it? She brings the knife down to her husband's throat and offers that perhaps she can just kill him for Pearl. That way she won't have to care for him anymore. Would that suit her selfish dreams? Her dad's like, dude, what the fuck? Why am I in this?
Yeah, I think, are you okay? It's like, because I was mad a minute ago, but now you're freaking out. It's like, calm down a little bit.
I feel like it literally the straw that broke the camel's back.
No,
this has been... She has been stoic. She's been swallowing it. She's been trying to ignore it. She's been suppressing it. And now it's over.
Yeah.
And Tandy Wright is just
phenomenal.
Yeah.
Killing this scene.
Yes.
Again, as we said, more flowers.
Please.
Yeah.
But Ruth says that way they can both go to the audition with both of their husbands gone. Why should they care for their husbands or this farm? What about getting what they want? The storm continues as Ruth stabs the knife into the tabletop and her husband eyes it nervously. She gives a heavy sigh while she and Pearl eye each other, and when she speaks again, she is no longer yelling. She tells Pearl that she won't suffer her anymore, and if she wants to leave, she can go. But when she fails, and she will fail, she wants Pearl to remember what it feels like, because that's what Ruth feels every time she looks at her.
You didn't need to say that.
Yeah, that hurt me.
Yeah.
It was a little far.
Mom!
I get what you're saying, but that you're being a bitch now. That was
now the line has been
that
crossed.
was a lot.
She tells her that nearly everything she's ever had has been taken from her. What more does Pearl want? Pearl, always knowing just what to say, tells her mother in a trembling voice that she just doesn't want to end up like her.
You weren't listening to what I was saying, were you?
She's like, so I'm going to the audition.
Yeah.
Were you listening or were you waiting to speak?
Yeah.
'Cause it feels like you were waiting to speak. Ruth walks over to her, and just as thunder booms outside, she slaps her daughter across the face. Pearl recovers from the slap and screams in Ruth's face, "I hate you." She returns the slap with one of her own, and that is when all hell breaks loose. The two lock together in a struggle, Ruth screaming that Pearl is not better than her, and Pearl screaming back that she is. She presses her mother against the lit fireplace, the flames licking at the hem of her dress. She yells that she is going to be a star, and the whole world is going to know her name. Ruth's dress catches fire and she goes up quickly, terrifying both her and Pearl. When Ruth drops to the ground, Pearl does the only thing she can think of and grabs the boiling pot of corn from the stove. She pours it on her mother's flaming body, effectively dousing the fire. Ruth slowly rolls onto her back, gasping weakly for air. We cut to Pearl, dragging her mother's charred, still and stiff body down into the basement, which we also saw in X.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When she returns upstairs, her father stares at her from the table with wide and terrified eyes. Pearl runs into the night, and when we see her again, she is illuminated from the light of the projection room as the projectionist opens the door for her. She stands, panting, and without a word, she lunges for him and kisses him. The projectionist lifts her off of her feet and spins her into the room as the scene closes in an iris shot.
So this is absolutely the point of no return.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's gone too far, and I feel so bad for Ruth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's rough because she was trying to put her out, but then you burned me with the water.
Also,
Yeah. Yeah.
on
But
top
maybe
of it,
it's like
Yeah.
indicative to even when Pearl is doing the right thing, it's still hurting. But like
Oh,
it's still not the right thing. You know what I mean? But like again, she could have just left. She told her, "You want to leave? Get out."
yeah.
Yeah, but again, for me, I know that's, but maybe just like, okay, and when you go and if you fell or whatever, come, I need your help here. This is whatever. Don't crush your dreams that bad. It's like, goddamn.
She for real did not need to take it there. But
Yeah.
She didn't, but and again, I don't agree with the message.
Right.
But again, imagine all this time, all the things you've been doing,
Yeah.
and then she's up there stealing your dresses and doing the Charleston
Yeah.
while you're working.
that's what
You start to get a little upset.
that's what I was that's what I was thinking earlier, that she comes back, she's chopping wood, she needs help cleaning Pearl's father,
Right.
she needs help getting dinner together, and you're sitting at the fucking movies and flirting in the alley. You know what I mean? Like, I understand that from Pearl's point of view, this is an escape, and it is an escape, but this woman is drowning.
And she has no escape.
And she has no escape. At night, she's in her bed crying.
Yeah.
That was her movie.
Yeah.
Like, that was her break. It's very sad.
It is.
And it would have, she could have just been like, yeah, you're going to fail and blah, blah, blah. And Pearl could have been like, all right, well, let me fail then.
Yeah.
And then knock on the projectionist door and be like, hey, like, Bohemian, tell me about it. But yeah, she didn't do that.
So is this really a story about having a good relationship with your parents, or is it like...
That is the takeaway. That's the moral. Be nice to your mom.
Yeah.
But in the resulting blackness, a film is projected. We see the shadow of a woman taking a bow, and when the camera glides over, it's Pearl. She poses with a smile on her face, and we see her adoring audience giving her a standing ovation, many of their mouths and noses covered with cloth masks. Pearl blows kisses to her fans and spins as roses are thrown at her, but Pearl's smile drops from her face as she looks out into the audience. Sitting in a row together, applauding her, are Howard and her father. Next to them is Ruth, And when she removes the cloth mask from her face, her mouth is revealed to have been burned away, her face frozen in an eternal smile.
These nightmarish little visions are very successful for me.
Oh, yeah.
And there's one later that is so brilliant.
Yes.
Just brilliant.
Pearl wakes with a start next to the projectionist on the small bed in the projection room. She dashes out of bed and starts to get dressed. The projectionist asks where she's going, consulting his watch and realizing that it's not even 6 a.m. But Pearl is frantic. She has to practice her routine so she's perfect for the audition. As she snatches up her overalls, she asks him if he still thinks she's pretty enough, and he tells her coolly that not much has changed in the last 24 hours. But Pearl says that it has. And it has.
Yeah.
The projectionist picks up her top hat and says that she forgot it last time and he's glad she came back. Pearl crosses the room to get the hat back, agreeing that she's glad too. But when she reaches him, he pulls her down onto the bed and the two kiss. The projectionist asks for her to at least let him drive her home, and we star wipe to them driving past the cornfields. He sits with his arm around her, and Pearl leans into him, but she looks uncomfortable. They pass a man in a uniform, making his way up the road, and Pearl turns all the way around in her seat to try to see his face, but he's wearing a mask. The projectionist asks if she knows him, and she admits that she's not sure. He reasons that you really can't tell who anyone is nowadays with all the masks.
Great line.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you got your arm around me.
Because the mask is a little bit closer than you think.
Yeah.
They finally pull up onto the property.
And someone should stop her.
Was that at the mask?
Yes, it was.
But they both get out of the car, and while the projectionist takes Pearl's bike out of the back, Pearl glances nervously through the screen door. She asks him to wait outside for a minute before heading in the house. She walks slowly to the kitchen, where we hear the buzzing of insects. Their plates still sit partially eaten on the table. The knife is still jutting out where Ruth had stabbed it into the tabletop. And still sitting in his chair, breathing weakly and looking afraid, is Pearl's father.
I could not believe that.
Yeah, that she left him like that.
Yeah.
Because we didn't see what she did after she put her mother in the basement.
Nope.
So she was just like, well, like
Yeah.
she just fucking left him.
I almost expected him to be gone in her panic. And then I was like, oh no, he is here.
Yeah, just left at the table.
Yeah.
She runs over to him, whispering a sincere apology. She pulls the knife out of the table and presses her ear to the cellar door before wheeling her father's chair into the room with the bird, her dad's room. She promises to come back to clean him up, but she's got a guest right now. She pulls back the curtains and peeks at the projectionist, playing with her top hat while he waits patiently outside. Pearl dutifully gives her father a spoonful of medicine. I'm surprised she wasn't like, one for you, one for me. But on the porch, with the hat perched on his head, the projectionist enjoys a cigarette, but he looks disturbed at something on the porch. He eyes it suspiciously. The roasted pig that Mitzi and Margaret had brought them still sits in the dish, now completely infested with maggots.
So upon seeing this, it is wild to me that he's like, yes, I'll come inside.
Yeah.
No
Like,
questions
what's all
asked.
this then?
That's a huge concern.
Yeah.
Massive.
I feel like if you bring me to this house and you're like, this is my house, let me run in real quick. Okay, cool. I'm waiting and I see this maggot infested dish just sitting there. Are you sure this is your place?
That's exactly
Yeah.
what I was thinking. That at least one question asked.
Do
Yeah.
you really live here?
Yeah. I think what I would think as well is maybe I've been had.
Okay.
Maybe this is all a ruse and I'm about to be robbed by Smitty Backall and the Smitty Backall gang or something, you know? But no, he just just goes in.
But Pearl calls out to him that he can come inside. He drops his cigarette and does as he's told. But he stops in his tracks when he sees Pearl standing behind her father's chair. I thought that she was going to close him in that room
Yeah.
and act like he wasn't there.
Yeah.
Almost like whatever happened to Baby Jane.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
She introduces them, and the projectionist respectfully takes the hat off of his head, telling her father that it's a pleasure to meet him. Pearl goes over to the projectionist and lies her head on his chest, creating a clear picture for her father. She leads him away, and we cut to them in her bedroom. She lies on top of him, kissing him, but he looks distracted. Pearl tells him that she wants off this farm forever, but he reasons that it doesn't seem so bad. She tells him that it is, though. There's a loud thudding sound, and when he asks what it is, she tells him it was nothing and continues to kiss him.
She's like, can you tell me louder about Europe?
Projectionist.
Yes.
Suddenly, she wants to hear all about Europe and wants to know when they can go.
Yeah.
It was a very if that's your goal, you should really go to Europe. It wasn't like, look, I'm going to Europe. When this is over, we can go together. I'll make you a star. He didn't do all that. He really didn't.
It was more of just a suggestion based on his plans.
Yeah.
It wasn't that at all.
Let's go together.
I love you.
Or I'll take you to Europe.
You know?
Yeah, he never went that way.
No. The thudding continues, and he asks if she should maybe go check on that. She ignores him and continues kissing him, but when the thudding persists, it's too much for him. He tells her that he's sorry as he moves her off of him and gets up. He says that they can't just ignore that because it could be her father, for Christ's sake.
And he's right.
Yes!
Yeah.
Pearl whines that it's not her father and asks him to please not go. But the projectionist has already opened the door and stepped out into the hallway. He asks what's wrong with her, and she tells him sulkily, nothing. He leaves without another word, and Pearl sits on her bed, glancing over at the framed photo of Howard on her bedside table. Howard's like, what the fuck, dude?
I think for me, the thing about this is that she really lets him go investigate.
Yeah.
For quite a long time when she knows exactly what that noise is.
Yeah.
Not telling you how to murder people or whatever, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
That one's on you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was a little worried. Again, Misery.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, that's what I was kind of expecting. Where it's like, oh my God, Talked about it in the loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
But the projectionist goes downstairs and follows the thudding. He moves carefully into the kitchen where the half-eaten meals still sit on the table. He spots the suspicious ears of corn lying haphazardly on the damp floor. He picks one up and is startled when Pearl places a quiet hand on his shoulder. She tells him that the sound is their dog. She made a mess in the kitchen while Pearl was gone, so she locked her in the root cellar.
That's good.
A feasible lie.
That's a very good excuse.
She quickly brightens and pulls him out of the room, telling him that she wants to show him something. As she's pulled away, the projectionist drops the corn onto the ground. She leads him to the barn, where she introduces him to Charlie. She tells him Charlie is always hungry because they can't afford to feed her like they used to. She introduces him to Mary the sheep and Francis the goat. She prances around, explaining that they're her best audience, and she named them after her favorite movie stars. She continues that it'll be sad to say goodbye to them after all the shows she's put on for them over the years. But you know what they say in show business? If you're not moving forwards, you're moving backwards. The projectionist stands uneasily, not contributing to the conversation at all, but Pearl doesn't need him to. She goes on that they used to have a lot more animals, but they all died. He finally asks, what about your dog? What's his name? But Pearl tells him brightly that they don't have a dog.
All right, that was like 20 seconds ago.
Yeah.
And again, I bitch about this a lot. Too soon.
Yeah.
Too soon. Maybe on the way there, if she's like, oh, or before she goes inside, my dog, let me make sure my dog didn't make a mess or anything.
And then they make out upstairs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's time to, maybe get a little nervous and forget that lie you told. But you bitch, you just said this to get him outside 30 seconds ago.
Yeah.
He reminds her that she just said they had a dog in the root cellar. Pearl is like, oh, yeah. He's starting to look quite nervous as Pearl stumbles for an explanation. He looks at his watch and realizes he's got to go. Look at the time.
I got to go get some cigarettes, okay?
Yeah.
He's got to do the matinee at the theater, but that's okay because she needs to practice anyway. Remember, her moves have to be perfect. Pearl looks up at him, her eyes filling with tears. The projectionist tries to make a smooth exit, kissing her on the cheek before strolling out of the barn. But when she asks, "Did I do something wrong?" he turns to her and shakes his head reassuringly, telling her that she hasn't. It's like, dude, you're like so fucking perfect. Like, you can do anything wrong if you try.
Yeah.
But I gotta go.
Yeah.
And I gotta go right now.
I'll be right back.
You stay right there.
You gotta get out of there.
She asks why he went so cold on her then, and the projectionist feigns ignorance, but Pearl asks what he saw. He says that he didn't see anything, but Pearl tells him that he's lying. They go back and forth, him trying to deny it and her insisting that she knows he's lying because she feels things very deeply. He tells her that he just needs to get back to work and he'll see her later, but Pearl wants to know when later is. When is he going to see her? He admits that he doesn't know. Pearl is closing the gap between them now, going from sad to accusatory. She demands to know the truth. He's not taking her to Europe, is he? Which again,
He never.
Yeah, he never said
never
that.
said he was. She demands to know what she did wrong. When he tries to calm her down, accusatory goes to angry. She screams at him. If she didn't do anything wrong, why is he leaving? She thought he liked her. He tries to protest that he does like her, but Pearl screams at him to tell her the truth. Why is he leaving? What did he see? Why did he change? He tells her sincerely, "You're scaring me, Pearl."
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's enough.
Yeah.
You're coming on a little strong.
Yeah.
I will say, and line delivery aside, because I didn't really like it, but I think that this scene has great pacing.
Okay.
And I feel like, legitimately, I do think that he liked Pearl.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so too.
I think that it was that these small things that start adding up, her lie about the dog, and he's like, what is this?
Yeah.
Well, and you saw the pig on the porch and what
Yeah.
the fuck was going on in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Like it and her dad looked terrified.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, dude, but I will never get over that lie. Like, that is the lie about the dog.
Yeah.
Like, that's unbelievable.
We got to get out of here right now. Because what was that thudding?
Yeah.
You know what it was.
Oh, yeah.
And you're
Yes.
saying it was your dog.
Mhm.
That doesn't
Yeah.
He genuinely wishes her the best of luck on her audition before leaving the barn. After a beat, Pearl snatches up the pitchfork and runs after him. The projectionist makes it to his car and climbs inside. He starts the engine and glances back at the open barn doors, but Pearl has already made her way to the driver's side door.
I don't know how he didn't hear that.
Yeah.
His heart's probably beating in
He's
his
like,
ears.
oh my God, I gotta get the fuck out of here.
He's having an anxiety attack.
She's probably crouch walking. You can't hear her. Yeah, when you duck down in video games,
Yeah.
you know, you can't hear.
She's in stealth
Yeah.
mode.
Yeah, she disappeared on the map.
I would have thrown up the second I got out of the party. I'm proud of him for keeping it together. When the projectionist turns, Pearl stands there, screaming at him that he's not leaving here and she's not staying on this farm. She raises the pitchfork and plunges it into the projectionist's chest. He stares at her, shocked and confused, as she pulls the pitchfork out, splattering her face with blood. She screams that nothing is going to keep her here before stabbing him again. Blood gushing from his mouth and fighting for consciousness, the projectionist still drives away, leaving her bike to clatter on the driveway and Pearl to fall. Pearl continues to scream and run after the slowly escaping car, but the projectionist quickly loses steam. The car slows to a stop, and Pearl continues to scream that nobody's keeping her on this farm. Not him, not Howard, not Mama, nobody. She yanks the door open and pulls him out. He falls to the grass and can only weakly protest, no. Pearl raises the pitchfork once again and brings it down, the outer tines falling on either side of his head and the middle one landing firmly in his mouth. Pearl screams, leaving the pitchfork sticking straight up out of the projectionist's face as she stomps back to the farmhouse. Inside, she opens the door to the cellar. Ruth has somehow made it up the stairs and lies there, burned and breathing weakly. So this was the thudding.
Yeah.
She tried, dude.
Yeah.
Mhm.
She looks up at her daughter, and Pearl looks back down at her mother. She tells her that she wants to remember what it feels like because that's how she felt every time Ruth looked at her.
That was your fault. You shouldn't have said that.
You should.
earlier.
She said, "I'm gonna file that
Yeah.
away." This was a great line. It's
Yeah.
horrible, but I was like, "Damn."
What, that it's turned around?
Yeah. Ruth's body goes tumbling down the stairs as Pearl knocks her back into the cellar. She returns to her father, panting, and tells him that it's time to get cleaned up. She takes him to the bathroom, and as she gently gives him a sponge bath, her father trembles with fear. He stares at his daughter with terrified eyes, and blood still smearing her face. Pearl tells him that she wishes he wouldn't look at her like that. She goes upstairs and takes a red dress from her mother's closet. With the powder blue bow in her hair and a matching suitcase, Pearl heads back downstairs. She passes her father on the way to the door, who she has dressed smartly in a suit. She stops and models for him, asking what he thinks. A tear rolls quietly down his face as he stares back at his daughter. And again, I know Mia Goth deserves her flowers. Tandy Wright absolutely deserves her flowers. This is a commendable performance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What he is able to convey just with his face, it is very impressive.
Yeah.
It makes me think of, what's his name in The Loved Ones?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
That's right.
Where it is kind of this unsung performance, but you are doing a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. Pearl pulls the pillowcase off of the pillow of her father's bed as his tears continue. She returns to her father. She lovingly thanks him for everything and tells him that she knows he'll look down on her proudly. She kisses his cheek and assures him that he is loved. As she prepares the pillowcase, we glide past her to the yellow bird in its cage, who is bouncing around like, "Get me the fuck out of here." We do not see the heinous act, but we watch the bird and listen as Pearl suffocates her father.
Yellow Bird.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's rough. I'm sorry.
You know what, T?
Yeah.
You're right, dude. I never thought of it that way.
This isn't how it should go.
Well, this isn't any way to treat your father.
No.
This was, I guess, better than the other ways that she's.
Yeah. I feel like to her this was a mercy.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
in her own sick way.
Yeah.
Because I think she really did love her dad.
Right.
And so that's why it's like, why are you fucking treating him like that?
Yeah.
You know what it puts me in the mind of is a scene in Joker.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Okay.
You remember.
Yes. Outside, she pushes the projectionist's car into the lake with him behind the wheel. She dramatically calls, "Au revoir, poor Johnny," before strutting off. And that poor Johnny is in Wee Wee Marie, so I'm assuming that's what.
Right. The reference.
Mhm.
Yeah.
She's clocked out. Pearl's gone.
Yeah.
She's about to clock in with
Yes.
this. Down, 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 down.
Once Pearl's gone, Theta glides over to the projectionist's body. Pearl, though, is racing past the cornfields on her bike. She pulls up at the church. There are already several women scattered around the yard, but Pearl finds Mitzi sitting on the side of the building. She's happy to see Pearl and tells her that she was worried she wasn't going to come. Pearl makes the excuse that she had chores to do around the house, but Mitzi is a bundle of nerves. She thinks that she feels worse than if she would have caught that flu. She asks Pearl what's in the suitcase, and Pearl tells her it's everything she needs to go on the road. Mitzi smiles, telling her that she's confident. She drops her voice to a whisper and says that she heard a rumor that they're only taking one girl from each town. Pearl says with full confidence that it has to be her. Mitzi laughs and gives her sister-in-law the benefit of the doubt that maybe she didn't mean to say that out loud. Just like, damn, dude, I'm right here.
Yeah. But I'm sorry, but isn't it like Mitzi is taking it very well that she's packed everything she owns? She's like, we're leaving today,
I'm
right?
ready to go right now. She tells Pearl graciously that if she doesn't get it, she hopes Pearl does. Pearl just repeats that it has to be her, and Mitzi is no longer laughing or smiling. Woman, played by Gabe McDonnell, comes out and calls the next person in. They disappear inside and everyone scooches up a chair. But the woman leaving the audition, who Mitzi identifies as Dorothy Collins, is openly weeping as she crosses the yard. Mitzi muses that she doesn't feel sorry for her. People who think they're God's gift always get what's coming to them eventually. Which I wonder if that's foreshadowing for somebody else who thinks that they're maybe like a star or something.
I will say that is kind of surprising from Mitzi.
Yeah. Like, no, fuck that bitch.
Only one can get it. Go home.
But after a moment, she admits that she feels bad for even saying that because Dorothy is a nurse and she couldn't do that herself.
That's the Mitzi we know.
Yeah. Pearl is just staring ahead with determination, leaving Mitzi to have the conversation alone. Mitzi sighs, telling Pearl that she's just so nervous, and if they laugh her off the stage, she doesn't think she'll be able to handle it. She asks how Pearl isn't scared, and Pearl says cryptically that she guesses she's just used to the feeling. Another dancer is cast out from the audition. The next woman is called in, and everyone moves up. Mitzi is next, and Pearl is right behind her. Mitzi tries to compose herself, but suddenly turns to Pearl and asks her to switch her spots because she's too scared. Pearl is confused, but Mitzi pleads with her, and she does. With Pearl next in line now, Mitzi thanks her and tells her that she's a good friend. This strikes Pearl, and she asks, "Am I?" Mitzi tells her, of course she is. Pearl repeats the earlier sentiment. Sister-in-laws have to stick together, right? Mitzi agrees. Tense music plays as Pearl gets back into her focused state. The door opens and the next dancer is called. With a smile, Mitzi tells Pearl that it's her turn. It's time to show them what she can do. Pearl agrees. I'm going to show them all. Now that sounds sinister.
Was it just me, or this felt a little weird? Why? I get you're scared, but why do you want me to switch? Like, what? Hold on.
I kind of get it because like there's been I remember getting tattoos with. I got a matching tattoo with my dad, and I was like, "You're going first, right?" Like, I got to see this done first, you know.
Well, I mean, I believe her. I believe that it's all about. I don't think that she's like. Well, maybe if I force her to go now, she's not ready. I don't think it's
no
diabolical.
No.
Pearl is sitting on ready.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, I kind of get it. I feel like there's two kinds of people. The type of person that's just like, let me fucking Band-Aid this off and get it done. And the kind of person that's like, I need another minute, you know?
No, I'm that kind of person.
But Mitzi tells her to break a leg and Pearl heads inside. Now next again, Mitzi takes a deep, shaky breath. Inside, Pearl walks in, and when she sees the judges, everything goes in slow motion. The woman taps her arm and gestures for her to go on stage.
I like that this is punctuated in the score.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like every tap is a thud. It's very good.
Pearl's footsteps echo as she takes her place on the X marked on the stage.
Interesting.
The pianist, played by Lauren Stewart, asks if Pearl is ready, but to Pearl, her voice is muffled. She gives her a slow motion nod and turns back toward the judges. As soon as the playful piano begins, the slow motion ends. Pearl puts on a radiant smile and dances brightly for the judges. In her mind, the curtain behind her pulls open to reveal a landscape. Backup dancers trot out behind her, dressed in soldiers' uniforms with full faces of makeup. Plane engines roar and bombs explode behind them as they dance a choreographed number. Fireworks explode over their heads in red, white, and blue as bombs continue to blow dirt into the sky. As the song ends, her backup dancers saunter off into the wings, the curtains close, and Pearl poses in a dramatic finish.
So this was filmed on a different set from the actual audition space.
Okay.
And they had a big blue screen behind her, and these dancers come in and everything. And so it's a completely separate sequence. But the thing is that curtain is kind of your clue to get back into this world.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it appears exactly as it did before. It's a very well done sequence.
Yes.
Visually.
Yeah.
And it is a peek into her psyche,
Right.
but it's also like somewhat surprising imagery.
I feel like it's very like emblematic of what horrors the bombs represent.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's glitzy, glittery fireworks too. Like, I mean, it's such a stark contrast, and that is her.
It's almost the combination of what she experienced at the theater.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. Maybe it's just whatever she's been consuming, that's what she's drawing on. And that's kind of, I guess, glorified. And she's like, well, if I go, I'm bringing peace by doing this, or I'm dancing for them. And it's like, yeah, I get it, but like horrible shit's going on.
Yeah. And it's still going on.
Yeah.
And it is a very good sequence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like how it's dreamlike. It's a bit surreal.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the cartoonish painting on the faces.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like they're joyful. It's just very well done.
Her choreography too is so clearly done with a group that I'm like, if I was a judge, I'd be like, damn, this bitch is like, she planned this out. Like, I would be impressed.
Yeah.
Seated in the middle of the judges' table, the director, played by Todd Ripton, tells her flatly, "Thank you, but it's going to be a no." Pearl's head is still thrown back in her pose, and she breathes heavily from the number she's just performed. The realization of what she was just told slowly dawns on her, and she lowers her head to look at the director. She asks, "Pardon?" He apologizes, but tells her that it's just not what they had in mind. The rest of the judges sit silently in the wake of Pearl's crushed dreams. Staring back at them from the stage, Pearl protests that this was the best dancing she's ever done. The director concedes that it was nice dancing.
Like nobody's saying that. It made me laugh, that line, because it is for the audience, because it's like, well, maybe it wasn't her best.
Yeah.
She's like, no, that is the best.
That was very
That
funny.
was me at my peak. But he says they have a lot of girls like her in the troupe already, and they're looking for something different, something more all-American, younger, blonde, someone with X factor.
All right.
What?
I get the nod.
Yeah.
There's no, I didn't look up anything, but there's no fucking way. In 1918, people are like, you've got that X factor.
Yeah.
I just don't see it.
There's no way.
I honestly was like, I liked it a lot.
Of course.
But I'm like, why don't you? Of course. But I'm like, why don't you just say we're looking for blondes? Like, why did you even see her? It's so shitty. And it explains why Pearl tells Howard in X, you know I hate blondes.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Oh, all right.
And her animosity towards Bobby Lynn, who was really the superior.
Yeah.
I will say it does kind of, it's little Easter eggs and things that you enjoy, but it also does that thing that prequels do that's kind of ridiculous to me, where it's like, I wonder how he got that hat. And then it's like 20 years earlier and you're like, oh, he found it on the side of the road? That's so cool.
That's amazing.
I always wondered how he got that hat.
That's why she hates blondes.
Yeah.
It all makes sense now. Pearl's face twists in grief as tears begin to roll down it. Confused, she asks, "What?" But the director just calls, "Next!" The woman comes to escort her off stage, but Pearl looks back at the judges sorrowfully. She shakes her head and softly tells them, "No." The judges, though, are now gone. Sitting in their places are a bloody projectionist, a gaunt Howard, a charred Ruth, and a smothered father. Ruth tells her that she's afraid so. The The woman continues trying to take Pearl away, but Pearl ignores her. As Ruth loudly strikes Pearl from the list in front of her, she begs them, tears still rolling down her face. She tells them that they don't understand that she needs this. Ruth sweetly calls for the next person in line. Pearl promises that she can do it better for them, but the woman pleads with her to not make a scene and spoil everything.
Like, well, you already told us that was your best, so
Yeah.
that's your fault. You can't do better.
We
But
know you can't do
nobody
better.
else brought their own backup dancers.
Exactly.
There was fireworks. But what do you want?
I brought you into a delusion.
Yeah.
Right.
How many dancers are going to do that? I made you dream with me.
Right, I know you motherfuckers seen that.
Yeah.
It's like, I know.
I can't be the only one. Am I the only one?
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
God.
Oh, my God.
That
You're
really
right.
happened,
You're right.
right?
I can't be here.
Mama
I
was
should-
right.
I will say, and speaking of Mama, that is brilliant.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of my favorite things in this film is that switch.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Pearl begs them for just one more chance, and the woman is pulling her arm now to take her off stage. But Pearl continues screaming at the judges, now the original panel, that she's a star. She screams at the top of her lungs for help and fights for her life to stay on the stage as the woman pulls her off.
It's pretty embarrassing.
Pearl, please.
Yeah. You can try out next year or whatever.
Mitzi comes in. She's like, that's your sister-in-law?
Yeah.
I've never met her until this line.
And she wanted to jump in front of me. It was really weird.
Yeah, I
It
don't
was
know.
honestly
why.
rude.
Yeah, she said she was ready. Doesn't look like it. Here's my number.
We cut to Pearl sitting on the side of the building alone, screaming as she sobs. Like you said, she does not take it well. Mitzi finds her and approaches cautiously as Pearl continues to scream. She gently calls Pearl's name, and when she looks up, ribbons of snot hang from her nose and her face is streaked with makeup. Mitzi offers to take her home. At the farmhouse, maggots are going to town on the roasted pig, still sitting in its dish on the porch. Mitzi wheels Pearl's bike up to the farmhouse and starts to follow Pearl inside, but she stops when she sees it. She asks if that's their pig, but Pearl has already disappeared into the house. It's like, you know that it's your
Yeah.
pig.
It's like, no, another neighbor brought us
Yeah.
a pig in the exact same dish.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's the one you gave them.
Yeah. That was weird of them, right? We ate ours.
Yeah.
We also ate the dish. Now,
You will not be getting it back.
Mitzi lets herself in and asks sweetly if she should go and get Pearl's mother. Pearl sits down at the kitchen table and tells her no. Mitzi offers to get her something nice to drink and heads into the kitchen, but Pearl sits devastated. She mutters that her mama was right. She's never getting off this farm. Mitzi returns with drinks and asks just where Pearl would want to go. When Pearl tells her Europe, Mitzi asks what on earth for. She says it'll be in ruins and she'll never be able to get Howard back there anyway. She sits down across from Pearl and tells her that she knows she's disappointed, but there's no reason to take it this hard when it was just a lousy church group. That really put it in perspective for me because through Pearl's lens, I forgot that literally, this is not Hollywood.
No.
Yeah.
This is not a movie. That's literally what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the way that she reacts to everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
The way that it seems, the things that she was telling the projectionist.
Yes.
It's like she's going to be in the next film that they're going to show.
Exactly. That's when she said that, that's when I realized that I am losing perspective. Like that is all that it was.
Yeah.
She says that they don't even know the first thing about quality dancing. Pearl just tells her quietly that she doesn't understand, but Mitzi wants to. She asks what's really the matter. Pearl tells her quietly that she doesn't feel well. Mitzi backs up in her seat, asking if she's coming down with something. Pearl didn't mean it that way, though, and Mitzi is immediately relieved. If she snuck out of the house and brought the germ back, her parents would kill her. Pearl isn't relieved, though. She tells her sister-in-law that she's worried there's something wrong with her. Mitzi still doesn't understand, and Pearl explains that she thinks there's something that the rest of the world has that's missing in her. She's never told anyone out loud before because she's afraid of what people might think. Mitzi assures Pearl that Howard is her husband and he adores her. She should be able to tell him how she feels. When Pearl says that she's afraid of what she might say to Howard, Mitzi offers to pretend to be him. Pearl can just say whatever she wants to say to Howard to her for practice. Pearl doesn't want to, but Mitzi insists that she get it out. She tells Pearl to trust her, and so Pearl does.
I appreciate Mitzi trying to be family, trying to be supportive and care. I think the pig outside still would be a... It's like, you haven't even cleaned that shit.
Yeah.
What's wrong? Where's your mom? Why she didn't throw it out? You didn't...
It does make me laugh that both people that have come to this farm, you're like, once I saw that pig,
Oh, God damn.
I'm fucking out of here.
It's just sitting there rotting.
Rotting.
And I think that again is something that really bums me out about a lot of characters in this film, is that there isn't really a bad bone in Mitzi's body.
Yeah.
It wasn't as if there were things said whenever they came here earlier, or Pearl heard her and her mom talking about anything, you know, because I don't know. And we'll discuss things more. Yeah. But it is upsetting.
Yeah.
I think that's just part of the contrast, though, because Mitzi is just opposite of Pearl in every way. Like, literally. The clock ticks loudly as Pearl takes a deep breath. She closes her eyes, and at Mitzi's urging, she begins. She tells Howard that she hates him so much for leaving her here that sometimes she hopes he dies. She feels bad for saying it, but it's true. She says that she was curious about other men, and he probably doesn't want to hear about a stranger satisfying his wife, but it was just one mistake, and it wasn't even him that she wanted. She only wants things to go back to how they were, but they can't now after everything she's done.
I just want to commend Mitzi's commitment to this exercise.
Yeah.
Because she's not like, you cheated on my fucking brother?
Yeah.
Now that she's like, go ahead.
Yeah. Continue.
Get it out.
Yeah.
With trepidation, Mitzi asks what else Pearl has done. She's like, honey? Yeah.
Jeez.
She's wearing a fake mustache. Pearl admits that she knows how this all must sound, and there was a time when she was flattered that someone as handsome as Howard would pine over her because she knows that he's a good person, and she always tries to be mindful of his heart and never make him feel jealous. I was like, well, you know, that's... She's like, but I did fuck the producer.
All right. What's the rest of the monologue?
I don't want you to be jealous, though. But she says that jealousy is a rot that twists your insides, and she knows the feeling because that's how she feels when she sees people that life comes easy for. She reasons that she knows she's not a good person. Mitzi is like, well, I better be hitting the old dusty trail. But Pearl continues. She says that she kept her eyes to the ground around other men because she knew she was lucky to have Howard's attention. She might be a farm girl, but she's not stupid. She spotted him the moment he came to live with them. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
She says that he worked hard like all the other farmhands, but he was different. He had a place to go home to whenever he wanted, and that's what Pearl was desperate for. She wanted off the farm her whole life, and Howard was her ticket out. She confesses that she made sure to never show him who she really was, and when he finally brought her to meet his family, it was a life straight out of the movies for her. He had it, and he didn't even want it. He wanted to stay on the farm, and that just made her angry. She says that he must have known that she hated it, and after everything she did to try to make him happy, he was selfish and cruel for keeping her there. Her tears continue as she admits that she was pregnant with his baby, but she never even wanted to be a mother, and she hated the feeling of being pregnant. It felt like a sickness. She asks how she could possibly be responsible for another life when life terrifies her. So she was relieved when she lost it because it was one less weight. But then the war came and Howard left. She asks her husband why he left her here. She says sadly that she hates feeling like this, and she asks if people like him ever feel this way. But she guesses that they probably don't because he seems so perfect all the time. The Lord never even answers her prayers, but he's been very generous to Howard, and she wants to know what's wrong with her so she can just get better. She doesn't want to end up like her mother. She wants to be like the perfect girls in the movies. She guesses that being loved by so many people would make up for all the time she spent suffering. And sometimes in the middle of the night, she wakes up afraid that this is where she belongs and that this is it for her. She calls herself a failure because she's not pretty or pleasant or friendly or smart or confident. I was like, God damn.
Jeez.
She's what her mother said. She's weak, and she wants to know why her family isn't like Howard's. She hates what it feels like to be her and not him. And she admits that she's scared that when Howard comes home, he's going to really see her, and she'll scare him like she does everyone else. She knows that what she's done is awful and murderous, and she even regrets it now, but she liked how it felt when she was doing it. I was like, okay, this is kind of textbook, because she's like, it started with the animals.
Yeah.
She says it started with animals that couldn't even hurt her back, and that felt good. And she says that killing is even easier than you would think, but it was different with her mother and the projectionist. They were more meaningful. She hurt them so that they would know what it was like to suffer, but her father didn't deserve that.
Ruth knew what it was like to suffer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of moments in this monologue where it's like you still
You don't get it.
no.
Yeah.
And you're still not being honest.
Yeah.
But which is really weird because she's sitting there saying how she resents Howard for leaving her there and he's keeping her on the farm. But that kind of like, so in a way you do understand what your mom's saying. She's there busting her ass to feed you, take care of her husband, keep the farm going. You can sympathize with your mom. You should have just had a conversation. Look, I understand. I wanted this thing with Howard and he's gone and I'm here. I understand. Let's bond over whatever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know
I
what
see
I mean?
how hard it is.
Yeah. But like you're saying, T, she was only thinking about herself because you do understand your mom, but the whole time you're like, no, just me. It's like, dude, listen.
And again, I just want to point out Howard didn't go to Hollywood.
No.
Yeah,
He isn't in the pictures right now.
Yeah.
But the resentment is Mitzi being like, we had a doctor that said he was ineligible, but he wanted to go. Like, that would piss me off. Like, I get, that's the thing. I get a lot of it.
Yeah.
I get it, but at the same time, it's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pearl.
It makes me think of Joan in Mad Men when her husband finally comes back and he's like, well, I'm just going to go back one more time. Why? Like,
Well,
why? I need you here. You've already left your home. But he was a fucking piece of shit.
He was a piece of
Yeah.
shit, and
Okay.
his excuse was never feeling important until he did.
Yeah, I fucking hate
but
that
he's
guy.
a garbage. He's a garbage.
He is a garbage.
He was a garbage.
But I get the frustration. I understand because she feels so trapped, and to hear like he wanted to, he didn't even have to go. Like that would hurt a lot. I get it.
Of course.
Yeah.
But it's also, again, everyone's fault.
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah. And I think that that's what's so brilliant about this monologue for me, and we're almost done, is that there is such a mixture of self-awareness and a complete lack of self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
There's guilt, but there's also this selfishness of like, yeah, I did really horrible things, but like, oh my God, my life sucks. And Howard, it's your fault. Like, I mean, it's like she is so fucking confused and selfish and self-centered in a way that even when you are admitting that you're guilty and that you've done the wrong things, it's still not completely your fault. Like it's really, to me, brilliantly written in that way that it's like, dude, I get that this is your moment of like contrition. Is that the right word? Sure. But it's also like, the saddest part is I had no choice. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
okay.
it's
Yeah.
like, no, dude, no, you had the choice and you made the wrong one.
Yeah.
It's very human,
Yeah.
and it's honest in that way that is very revealing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Although I do think that she is a little too revealing about certain aspects of what
Yeah.
she's done. I think she forgets that that's Mitzi.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Mitzi's like, now go on. She's like, all right.
Yeah.
Hey, you
She
said.
said.
You
You
said.
asked for it. But she admits that she just shouldn't have done it. Her mother meant well. After a hard life, she only wanted to feel safe in her own home, and she sees that now. She admits that she thought she hated her mother, but she really just wants to feel safe too. She sums it up that she's just made such a mess of things, and she doesn't know how much more she can take. She realizes that she needs to clean up and make everything right before Howard comes back. She could make the farm a home and everything could be different. She can forgive and be who Howard wants her to be if he will only stay with her. She asks if he can please do that because it's too hard to be alone. They can just love each other till death do they part. The two of them on the farm could be enough. Crying harder, she says that all she wanted was to just be loved, and she's had such a hard time without it lately. She finally falls quiet, and the clock continues its ticking. So this monologue is over 7 minutes, and over 5 of it is done in just one shot on Mia Goth.
Mm-hmm.
It is very impressive. I will admit I am a fucking sucker for a good monologue. I eat it up. I like I love it. So maybe I'm a little biased in that way that I'm kind of the target audience for something like this.
Yeah.
But I thought I really liked it a lot.
I think it's very well written, and I think that she does a really good job with it. I just feel like, again, this want to sympathize more, but these blocks that won't allow you to.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I hope that their intention with this wasn't for us to be like, oh my God, poor Pearl. Like, I hope that that's not what this was, because like we said, it is just revealing to the way that she thinks, and even taking responsibility is not really taking responsibility. And she still doesn't deserve her life and what she's you know what I mean? Like, I hope that when they wrote it, it was not, now we're going to make everybody fucking love her. Like,
Yeah.
I really hope that wasn't it, and that's not what people took from this. But who the fuck knows? But I saw in an interview with Mia Goth that she said that they filmed this on the last day too. And so it had been so hectic with them getting all of this done in 4 weeks that she was just exhausted, and that she used that exhaustion to kind of fuel the monologue and kind of mirror Pearl's exhaustion.
Okay.
Because if you think about it, this bitch has had a long day, a
Yeah.
long night and day.
Yeah, very fair.
But we finally see Mitzi again. She sits across from Pearl, speechless. She takes a deep breath, trying to find the words, and trying to act super casual. She tells Pearl that she's got to be leaving now, because if she's not back soon, her mother's going to start to worry where she is. She gets up and slowly starts to walk out of the room. Pearl asks if she's frightened of her, and Mitzi turns around with a forced smile and says, of course she's not. Pearl asks if she thinks she's sick, and Mitzi tells her again, no. Pearl smiles at her and thanks her. Mitzi starts out of the room again, but Pearl whispers that she's happy for her. Mitzi is confused, but Pearl elaborates that she's happy Mitzi got the part. She deserves it. Mitzi denies this, but Pearl assures her that it's okay. She doesn't have to pretend anymore. If it wasn't her, she's glad it was Mitzi. Mitzi tries to tell her again that she didn't get it, and Pearl, her eyes brimming with tears again, asks her to please not lie to her. Mitzi sighs and says yes. She thanks Pearl and tells her it's going to be nice dancing around the state, and she hopes Pearl can come and see her. Pearl just continues to nod sourly. She tells Mitzi that she always gets what she wants. She's younger and blonder. Mitzi is like, I have to go now.
Mitzi should not have lied.
Here, okay. Did she get the part? Do you think she got the part?
I think that she did get the part.
I thought that she did the first time I watched it, and when I watched it again,
She seems very sincere with her denials.
that
But
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like she actually did. Because
I feel it watching it the second time, it felt like she is just saying whatever the fuck, like, don't lie to me. Okay, I'm not lying to you. I did get, like, it felt like she was saying whatever she needed to do to placate Pearl and get the fuck out of that room. And so I was wondering like how people took that, because the first time I was like, damn, she did. And then watching it the second time, I was like, did she?
Yeah.
Because it kind of felt like self-preservation. Like, okay, you want me to have gotten it? I did. I did get it. Thank you.
I think it was just the detail about dancing around the state. I think where I was like, okay, maybe she did get the part. 'Cause if you didn't, you'd just be like, yeah, you're right. I did. I will see you Thursday or whatever.
Yeah.
Well,
but she's like, and I hope you come and see me because we're going to be in Dallas on Thursday.
So you should probably go to
Yeah, you
Dallas.
should
But yeah, I was, intrigued by that.
Yeah, but they knew that already. She told her that. They knew that it was just one of them that they were going to go around. So I thought the same thing. The first time I watched it, I was like, "Oh, this bitch." You know what I mean? I was like, "You got the part. God damn it." But then watching it this time, I did think the same thing. I was like, are you just telling her what she wants to hear because you're scared? Or did you really get it? Because she does ask her and she's like, no, it's okay. You can tell me. And she's like, I didn't.
I didn't.
See, and I felt that until that detail was added. Because I feel like if you're just trying to get out of there, that detail kind of rubs it in. Because you're like, I'm not going to be here.
Yeah, I get that. It just,
But you are.
On this farm forever. I don't know. I don't know. I wonder what the intention was. Because watching it after I watched it the second time, I was watching it a third time, and I just had it on and I started thinking about it. So I Googled it, and apparently there is like a conversation on Reddit where some people fully believe that she did, and some people fully believe that she did not. So, I mean, it obviously is ambiguous.
Yeah.
But I was just wondering what y'all thought.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't feel like she would rub it in her face that what you just heard. I was like, maybe not. Maybe I don't like, yeah, I got the part. You know what I mean?
In your face.
Yeah.
That's why, again, I would keep it brief.
Yeah.
You're exactly right. In fact, we're leaving right now.
They're outside. I want to know what everyone, tweeted us, whatever. Let us know what y'all think, because it was just so strange how completely differently I took that the first and second time I watched it. But Mitzi is like, I have to go now. My planet needs me. But Pearl asks her, you're not going to say anything, are you? Mitzi promises that she won't. Pearl tells her that she really does love Howard and nobody has to know. She can fix everything and this will just be their little secret. Mitzi leaves the house.
That's kind of a mirror of the audition itself being their secret too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more of a secret, I'd say.
It's a bigger secret. It's a few secrets, actually. She lets herself out of the screen door and walks past the rotting pig on the porch. As she starts down the driveway, Pearl steps outside. Eyeing Mitzi, she slowly picks up an axe. Mitzi starts to run down the driveway with Pearl trailing after her. She screams for someone to help her, but when she trips in her heels and falls, Pearl runs. She closes the gap between her and Mitzi quickly, and when Mitzi gets to her feet and starts to limp away, Pearl axes her a question. She chops her in the back.
Yes, she does.
She does this multiple times before Mitzi finally goes down. We float above them as Pearl stands over Mitzi. Mitzi promises that she won't tell anyone. She sobs and begs Pearl, covering her face with her hands. She swears that she will do whatever Pearl wants. We look up at Pearl as she calmly tells Mitzi that it's not about what she wants anymore. It's about making the best of what she has. What her mother told her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. She's really taking these lines and doing her own thing.
Yeah,
with them,
I was gonna say
that's not what I meant.
I don't think that counts here. That doesn't work here. It's like that. It's been revoked.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, I know.
That doesn't fit.
That's not.
Mitzi continues to plead with her as Pearl brings the axe down.
The chase out of the house is a very, very good sequence.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I was reading how they accomplished this. The cinematographer said that they used a Russian arm on the back of a car because they didn't know exactly. They're like, okay, so it's written in the script that we follow in a one shot and then we rise above. So are we going to step onto a forklift? Are we going to, what's the thing?
Yeah.
And so they attach the camera to that Russian arm in the back of the car and they drive. And so it's a car that's following this shot.
Wow.
And then at the end, the arm just raises up and it's so, again.
It looks fantastic.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where you didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
It was just a really good choice, and to do this in one shot without any edits
Yeah.
until the final murder, you feel the tension rise.
For sure.
And it's very good. But I will say, we all knew. I think when we met Mitzi that she wasn't going to make
You're
it
not
out of
making
here.
it out of this.
No.
Sad.
Yeah.
Now she's never going to dance around the stage, whether she was going to or not.
She was.
I don't know. I'm not sure. But Pearl returns to the root cellar, slowly descending the stairs in her stolen red dress. On the other side of the room, she finds Ruth's body. She died trying to climb the stairs. Pearl turns her body over and lies on her mother's chest, draping Ruth's arm over herself. And in her mind, Ruth begins to sing to her in German. We star wipe to Pearl's bedroom, where she brushes her mother's hair, causing it to fall to the ground in clumps. I think I read that this is the same brush that she's using in X as an old woman.
Oh, damn.
Which is pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
Ruth continues to sing as the screen splits into two, and we get a montage of Pearl cleaning everything up like she promised. She cuts up Mitzi's body and tosses the pieces into the lake to a grateful Theta. She tends to the animals with blood-splattered hands and returns the pitchfork to the barn before closing the door. She sets the table for dinner, bringing in her father, his face still draped with the pillowcase. Once at the table, she removes it, and her father's smothered face is exposed, one of his eyes bulging blindly. She sets her mother up in a chair, half of her face burned away, but her remaining hair neatly combed. Pearl serves dinner on the table, the roasted, rotting, maggot-infested pig.
I love the way that all of this is shot.
Yes.
The way that it's split and mirrored. And honestly, the shots of this gore are kind of surprising in how, I don't know, just the close-ups of them.
Yeah.
It is very gruesome.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It is.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
And maybe it's the color, the way that the red looks.
Yeah, probably.
You know? Another thing, though, that I was thinking is like, I know murder investigations aren't what they are now. But goddamn, there's a lot of evidence on this file.
Yeah. No, nobody's walking away from this. If anybody comes sniffing around. But yeah, it is shot so beautifully that as grotesque as it is, it looks gorgeous. But in the cellar, an alive Ruth cradles her daughter as she finishes singing. She tells Pearl that she loves her in German, and Pearl says it back as they look at each other lovingly. This was very sad to me.
Yeah.
Because, again, all this time we could have been friends.
Yeah.
If you just... it's maddening. It's so tragic.
It almost feels like a vision that Norman Bates would have.
Yes.
Okay.
And I did read that Psycho was an influence.
Well, the way that she dumped the projectionist's body was
very much.
Yeah.
Just needed some jelly beans or whatever those things were.
And the bird too.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think I saw a rear window.
I've seen films. Pearl sits at the table with her parents and leads them in prayer. She crosses herself with her bloody hand, and it cuts to black. In the morning, a vehicle full of soldiers stops in front of the farm and drops someone off. He walks up the path, and by the time he gets to the farmhouse, he's running. When he flings open the screen door and lets himself in, we see that it's Howard.
You have no idea what...
If you had come home 2 days ago, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. That's right.
I mean, terrible. He calls out excitedly for Pearl, and in his search for her, he finds the horrific tableau at the dinner table. His jaw drops as he takes it all in. Ruth and father, both dead. The rotting and molded food served onto plates and bowls on the table. Behind him, Pearl gently says his name. She stands, clean and dressed, cradling a pitcher with both hands. She tells him that she's so happy he's home. He stares back at her with a horrified expression. Pearl offers him a bright grin that turns into a full smile. The words "the end" appear in front of her face and the credits roll, but Pearl continues to smile until it twists and contorts, forced and agonizing, as her eyes fill with tears and spill down her face. The bright music becomes something haunting, and Pearl struggles with her crumbling facade. Finally, an iris shot slowly closes in on her, and the credits roll. So, what did you guys think of Pearl? But hold on one second. I want to talk about that. It was meant to be a freeze frame on her face when she smiles. Mm-hmm. But they said that Ty West just kept going, so she did too. And this is haunting. It can easily in my mind, because I have somebody who really appreciates this up there and somebody who's like, this is just like the end of most commercial when he's smiling or whatever. It's good.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. But this is haunting. She is able to portray so many emotions of what she has been through since he's left, and kind of probably how she feels seeing him, because as much as she loves Howard, I think she fucking hates him too.
Okay.
And so again, in the way that she thinks in that monologue, probably in her mind blaming him for not coming home 2 days ago. You know what I mean? But I think it's brilliant. It's haunting, and it's such a fitting way to end the film, I think.
It is unsettling, and the green glass of drink.
Yeah.
Color theory. Think of decay and death, and so it is kind of with that too. I was just thinking of Howard. He's like, Snookums?
What?
Like,
what?
You've been looking at me like that for 2.5 minutes.
What does Howard say?
I don't know. I mean,
he stays.
He stays for
does.
60 fucking years, dude.
Yeah.
And is like, well, I want to have sex with you, honey, but my heart,
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know why that's what I called on, but he's a fucking.
But when you think about it, they have been.
Yeah.
At this point in time.
He's a ride or die as fuck. Because I wonder, does he ever know that she killed his sister? He has to.
Oh, yeah.
If I've
she's
come
gotta
home
say something.
and you've murdered both of your parents, and my mom's like, hey, Mitzi's missing. Of course. Put 2 and 2 together. It's 4.
So that might have been someone else.
2 plus 2 is Pearl killed your fucking sister. There's no way around it.
Convince me. Just convince me, and I will ask no more questions.
That's what I'm saying. That dude, he's a ride or die.
Yeah.
Literally a fucking ride or die. But my previous question, what y'all think of Pearl?
I did enjoy talking about the movie. I had a really good time, and the movie, like I said up at the top, I did enjoy it the second time. Us talking about it put a little more things, kind of made me think a little more, put some things into perspective, kind of see things from a different angle of it. Mm-hmm. So I will say that I did enjoy also with the talking about it, made me kind of like the movie a little more.
Okay.
Now, in saying that, when we do get to our scores, I don't think I can go higher than X. So
okay, so I think that when Maxine comes out and we cover it, we should be able to adjust accordingly.
Okay,
as
so
a trilogy.
for right now, then.
So this will just be for right now.
Okay.
I will say Ty West did say there might be one after Maxine. So we might have to wait for that.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah.
But I did enjoy a lot of the way that this looked, the way that it played out. Everything looked really good and it sounded good. Like, again, there is a lot of positives. For me, I think it was just some of the transitions happened at a weird time, and I was like, why the ending? I get it. For me, it's just a little long. I do understand. it goes on for a little too long, and then having the Merry Melodies thing at the end, where it's just kind of like dun, 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 and it's like, all right. I don't mind it, but for me, I would have liked, and again, not knocking anything of the composer of the music and everything, because I love that. You know what I mean? I love the orchestra. I want to hear all that shit. Bring it all. But I would have for me, I would have liked if it would have stayed with the whimsical while we were getting murders, while we were whatever. So we stay in that Mary Poppins thing. You know what I mean? The whole time, and with it. But I don't mind this. I don't like it more than I do X. But this wasn't bad. It like I said, talking about it and watching it again kind of opened my mind to other, you know what I mean? Taking it in different ways. And I will say even that I do appreciate the movie a little more. I was talking about it.
I really do enjoy a lot of aspects of this film. I think that the production is impeccable.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's really remarkable to see what they did in the short period of time that they had. When you are doing pre-production on a second film during the production of your first one, that's wild. And for it to seem so cohesive, and for the cinematography, the production design, all these things to not feel like they were on a time crunch.
Yeah.
It's really impressive. The only thing for me that does kind of feel that, where there wasn't a lot of time to flesh out these things, is kind of the narrative for me. Because I feel like all of these things are next to exactly what I would have expected. And once we do see things start going into motion, you know exactly where they're going.
Yeah.
You may not know the style of which it will be portrayed, but you know that, oh, we've met this Mitzi character. Well, she's going to be killed by Pearl.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we've met, her parents, she's definitely going to be killing them. Like, it's like, it's not that it is bad. It's just that I want to kind of not know where everything's going.
Right.
And I do appreciate this idea of a character study and kind of diving deeper into the psyche of Pearl. I just don't think that there's that much to mine. I just want more, and I'm not getting it.
Okay.
Yeah, I can agree with that, because I've bitched about that before. You know what I mean? Well, this is me. You know what I mean? And I do just a little bit. Just give me just something a little more. You know what I mean? I want to know a little more, or I want to, like you're saying, babe, about them not wanting us to sympathize with her and be like, oh, poor Pearl. Like, if you want that, then I need a little more.
Yeah.
Or if you know what I mean? Yeah, we're getting what we're getting here, but like, let us see a little behind the curtain a little longer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I will admit, even with those negatives for me, I very much appreciate the era that they're capturing and what it means to Pearl.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it is so indicative of her mindset, and it really does help sell all of these ambitions. When you film it like this Technicolor Wizard of Oz style of film. And so there are a lot of commendable things about it. I don't know. I really do feel like it is more of a mixed bag than I had wanted. You know? Look, I will say there's one thing that I have noticed a lot, and I don't know. One thing I've noticed a lot about opinions on things is very often, and it's kind of upsetting because I appreciate nuance.
Yeah.
I feel like so often things are either portrayed as the greatest thing ever or the worst thing to have ever happened.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of stuff that really is in the middle.
Yeah.
And I think that we need to pay more, let's talk about that more.
Yeah. That is frustrating, because I also think that if one person likes something and another person doesn't, that could lead to a very interesting conversation.
Yes.
Instead of just, but a lot of people have the mentality of like, oh, then you just didn't get it, or this just wasn't for you. You know what I mean? Like, we all have different life experiences, and we all have different preferences and tastes, and like, that should be okay. That's just like what life is. But yeah, I agree with you. It's annoying, but like, the internet is just annoying in general.
That's a fair point.
But on the other side of the coin, I really did enjoy this. I completely see the complaints. I feel like I'm more good outweighs it for me.
Okay.
I feel like I really appreciate the performances from really everybody. That monologue is brilliant. Ruth's monologue is brilliant. I think the aesthetics are impressive and gorgeous, and just the way that it's shot, the way that everything looks, the music, I'm really won over by it. I think that it is so interesting to see the parallels between Pearl and Maxine, to see kind of like mirrored moments, Pearl watching the porn through the window and then watching Maxine film a porn through the window. Her issue with blondes. I mean, shit like that. I think that it is like, and I know this isn't like exactly a super short movie, but it's like an hour 40, right?
It is.
And
yeah.
I feel like they kind of do a lot of those Easter eggs for the time that they have. I think that it's impressive. I think it is interesting to when we're joining her, you know, because I think that most films would tell a story of, oh, this is her when she was very little. And she was, you know, everybody loved her and she was the life of the party. And then she slowly, it's like, no, we're already in the midst of her. She is very sick. I think it was in Horns. I know it was a Joe Hill book, and it was a little sequence that I never forgot, but they talked about like a factory. I think they said like blenders, and a blender gets put in the box gets set out, but some people don't get the blender put in their box, and the box gets closed and it gets shipped out and it gets put on the shelf and it looks like every other box, but the most important thing in it is missing. And I never forgot that. And I think that that is what Pearl is. I think that it wasn't circumstance. I think that this is just who she is. I think that she's very selfish. She's very like delusional. I think that she's a very, very sick person. And, you know, it's fucked up.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. I just think and that's a very interesting metaphor, and I'm glad you brought it up.
Thank you.
I think it's fascinating that for you, it can describe Pearl the character, and for me, it can describe Pearl the film.
Wow.
Okay.
That is interesting. Yeah. Okay. That is interesting.
Yeah.
But the thing that I would like more about is, and I know that we kind of get it in that letter where he's like, I never want to be away from you again. Like, I love you. Thoughts of you are the only thing. And obviously he was at war. He's traumatized, Howard.
Yeah.
But it's like, how did that go when you came home? Because it seems like that's the first time she's killed anybody, right? Because she talked about animals, and then it's like, oh, but the projectionist and my mom and my dad, like, she's never talked about hurting another person.
No.
So it's like, even if he knew that there was an issue with her, like she was being cruel to animals, you come home to this? How did we go from this to 60 years later when he's like, yes, my queen? You know what I mean? Like, I would like more about Howard, I think.
I will say, even in X, he's kind of like, no, don't go fucking around in the house.
Yeah. Maybe he's just afraid.
That's true. That's a fair point. But yeah, I think it's just, I think it's a very interesting film, and I think that it's gorgeous, and I think that it really knew what it wanted to do, and it accomplished that. And does it fully explain everything? No. Does it, you know, flesh everything out? No. But I think it is it's a very interesting film if you like X. I think that it's a perfect companion to X. And I think that I like and this is on the heels of me saying that I think that Pearl is sick and broken, but I like villains that aren't just, I don't fully know how to explain it, because I do think that Pearl is irredeemable, and I do think that she's awful, but I think that there are aspects about her experience that you can sympathize with.
Yeah.
Being a woman with ambition that feels stuck, being a dreamer with stars in their eyes, not wanting to face their own reality. There are multiple things being separated from her husband. I mean, like, there's a lot of aspects that, of course, anyone could sympathize or empathize with and be like, God, like that's really hard. Like, I feel bad. But then it's like, I don't feel bad for her. You know, like I like that. A film that will make you wrestle with that for a minute, be like, oh man, it's like, no, wait, no, you're awful. You know, I like that. I like the old Hollywood Easter eggs. I like the nods to other films. I think that this is a really, really fucking good movie, and I like it. And I think that we can go to ratings from that. But yeah, I already said everything, I think, that I wanted to say about it. I just, I think it's really interesting. And for me, I did enjoy it more than X. They're pretty close to me, because I enjoyed X so much more when we covered it than I did when I watched it before.
Yeah.
But I have it, I'm not gonna lie, it set a bar in my mind pretty high for Maxine that it makes me a little worried that Maxine is gonna, is gonna be able to get there. But I believe I gave X an 8.
I think so, yes.
And so in that spirit, on a scale from 1 to 10, devastating dance auditions, I am going to give Pearl an 8.5. Devastating dance auditions. I think this is a really great double feature. I think you could even watch them backwards. That would probably be fun.
Okay.
I haven't done it myself, so don't quote me, but it seems like it would be fun.
Right.
But I will now open up the floor to you.
I agree with what you guys are both saying, and I feel like for me, I am kind of, like you said, T, earlier, in the middle. I do like the movie, and I think that's honestly a good, I mean, it makes sense. Watch this and then X. Or watch X and then this and then be like, oh shit, we seen that.
Yeah.
And then, you know, and that for me only elevates the movie because it is, being able to do that. It's not often that we get movies to where the sequel goes really good with the original, because it's always, oh, the original is better, or the second one sucked, or, you know, it wasn't as good. Yeah, but I mean, did they go good together, or is it you're just judging it on the standalone? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And with that, it does make me appreciate the movie a little more. But I feel like for me, it's just the way of the editing. You know what I mean? The way that the editing went, and I was just kind of felt a little weird for me, because where I did want it to be whimsical and kind of play a little more into that, it just felt horror movie. Here's, you know what I mean? Here's the sting. It's going to be scary, you know? And it's like, no, I get it. I get we are in a horror movie, but for as beautiful as everything looks, and then the way we're set in, I just wanted it to stay that way. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Even if it is a little like Chucky, they mixed the childy music, you know what I mean, kind of childish music with the scary music, and it makes it kind of like when you see Chucky, you still hear like the fucking xylophone or whatever, but it's scary. You know what I mean? Give me that, so where I'm still like, oh fuck, this is nuts, but it is good. So for me, again, like I said, I am kind of stuck in the middle with it. I'm not gonna lie, I don't hate the movie at all. I don't dislike it. But if I watched it in some years, I mean, yeah, it's fine. If I watch it next week, that's fine.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's not bad. But I think if with Maxine we're able to kind of shift things a little later, I'm with you, babe, on that. I'm gonna stick with what we have, and
we'll fix it later.
Right, yeah. And I did give X a 7. Mm-hmm. Thank you, T, for that, for reminding me. So for me, on a scale of 1 to 10, devastating dance auditions, I'm going to give Pearl a 6.5. I did like it, and I do, you know what I mean, see, but it's just so hard again, because I understand where her mom's coming from. I get it, but then Pearl too, when she starts saying shit, it's like, yeah, you are selfish, but I do understand also why you feel that way, and I see where you're coming from, but it's like, God damn, dude. It's like, holy shit, you guys just killing each other or you know what I mean? You're killing everybody. It's like, what the fuck's going on? It's like, you calm down. Take a nap. You know what I mean? Get a nap in and then think about it. Go visit the Scarecrow again. Then come back and make a decision.
Post-nut
Right.
clarity.
Maybe
All
she
right.
would. If she would have been getting it, then she probably wouldn't have killed all those people.
Go let off some steam.
Yeah.
We gotta get. All right, here's what I thought.
Better check our emails.
Yeah, you both, and check the junk folder too, because I have a theory that maybe they've been going there.
Yeah. He's on to us.
No, look. There are a lot of positive things that I really do like about this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I really think that the cinematography, the production design, the set design, the colors, the imitation of this Technicolor processing,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
the shot compositions on a lot of scenes.
Yeah.
I really think there is a lot to enjoy, and I do just love how it evokes that era, how it is that pastiche of a few decades of film.
Mm-hmm.
The score as well
Mm-hmm.
kind of brings you back to this era too. I really do think that it is just a matter of the narrative and the character of Pearl.
Okay.
I appreciate that Pearl is a flawed character, but I also worry that maybe she's not as fleshed out
Okay.
too.
All right.
And so, I mean, I don't know. It is a very difficult one to score because I did appreciate it more than X.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But I think that it is leaning on a lot of these technical aspects.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, the fact that it is a very unique way to tell this story,
Mm-hmm.
a very ambitious project to take on with such a short period of time.
Yeah.
And so it is admirable. I don't know. I just feel like it did not reach me like I hoped it would. And after watching X and after seeing what this was looking like,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and also seeing the reaction to it online, I think that I was just like, I really thought I was going to love this film.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I ended up just kind of being like, it's pretty good.
Okay.
It's all right.
Yeah.
But it is much more in my wheelhouse than X was, especially the just predictability of that third act.
Is it also the no porn?
It's not.
Yeah,
Jesus
Well, there's a little bit
Christ.
of porn in it.
Well, a tiny bit.
I just wanted to say X especially.
Yes.
It didn't have that X factor for you.
Ah, there you go.
Which we all said in 1918.
Yes.
That's when it was coined at that audition.
I think that was an episode of X Factor. I'm sure that term was coined in like a newspaper in like the 20s or something,
Yeah.
and then I'll be told.
We always are.
Yeah. But I mean, it is subjective. I am very much looking forward to Maxine.
Mm-hmm.
I think what it is with Ty West is I think that for me he succeeds stylistically, and for me I think that's kind of where it ends a little bit.
Okay.
Because I always appreciate the attention to detail in capturing these eras, but then I always have difficulty reconciling the narrative.
Right.
And I think that that's happened maybe in every film I've seen of his.
Okay.
Oh, all right. All right.
So maybe that's just my,
Yeah.
feeling. But there are a lot of really, really good performances. Tandy Wright,
Yeah.
Yeah.
fantastic. I think the actress who plays Mitzi plays her part very well.
Mhm.
Yes.
I don't know. I think I'm starting to ramble a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and move toward my rating. But for me, and I gave X a 5.5.
Okay.
I think I am going to give... And I think my other problem with X that this one didn't have... I'm just saying the issue.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I really didn't like the way that they treated elder sexuality.
I remember.
Okay.
And there was no element of that in this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so again, that is something that I do appreciate, that it's not doing shit like that. Look, here it is.
All right.
Pearl for me, out of 10 devastating dance auditions. I am going to give Pearl 6 devastating dance auditions out of 10.
All right.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay. Stand in your truth.
I am.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, it's okay, man. I don't like Bon Jovi either, except for that one song. And it's
So
about
you,
like...
you do like Bon Jovi.
No, just the one song. Yeah, that-
Well, that's all from us at Podmortem. What would you rate Pearl, and what should we watch next? Let us know on Twitter at the Podmortem. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and like our Stirhole Productions page on Facebook. Be sure to follow each of us on Twitter at Blood and Smoke, at RealStreeter84, and at TravisMWH. Thank you to Original Cinematic for sponsoring this week's episode. Please consider pledging to our Patreon, where you'll get bonus content like the Corner of Creep and No Sleep, where we read creepypastas and Reddit no sleeps, and Talk Mortem, where we answer your questions and take on random topics. Stay tuned until after the music for a special shout out to our Wendigo Getter patrons. And remember, it's important to have a dream, but it's just as important to know when it's time to wake up. Until next time. Thank you for staying tuned for a special thank you to our Wendigo Getter patrons.
Woo! Yeah!
Hey! A special thank you to
Chris Ontiveros, Kristen Lofton, Megan Martinez, Kimberly Bass, Sophie Hodson, Anthony Jerome M., Jordan Nash, Kent Morton, Lala Thomas, Travis and Nisa Hunter, Miguel Myers ATX, Jennifer Perez, Allison O'Neill, Carissa, TJ and Angie Bronson, Gabrielle Trevino, Spooky Mom, Applin Ontiveros, Karima Rhodes, Antonio Huerta, Kimberly Kleindienst, Will Brown, Sydney Smith, Osvaldo Soto, Bobby Holmes, Donna Eason, JD Rizak, Molly Gerhart, Armand Spasto, Aaron Aguirre, Eggy, William Barry, Brittany Ramatar, Charity Oxner, Amanda Six, Mandy Rainwater, Jordan Roberts, Dylan, Jordan Blevins, Liz Heath, Spencer Montalvo, Pancake the Panda, John Ramos, Michael Newting, Alexis Roberts, Dan Laveau, Itzy M, Gary Horton, Leisha Olivier, Kate Lamp, Carlos and Sydney, Jessica Hunter, Helena Rudder, Alan Johnston, Mariah, Livy Fun, Scott Troutman Wise, Towton Watson, Mozzie Bear, Brittany G, Dave Burke, Adrian Stakes, Daniel McGinnis, Nick Spill, Emma Hagel-Kissinger,
Valerie G, Emiliana, Brian Glass, CB, Taylor Santana, Will Lewison, Angelique, Smelly Poo Poo Head, Beth Bauer, Cookie, Esperanza J, Jason Kyle OKC, Joshua Rumley, Danielle Peralta, Brandon, Nicholas Carter, Sawyer Reese Farr, Dr. Diva Loves Horror, Girl That's Scary, Cassandra, Andrea Simmons, Ashley Higuera, William and Xxena Rush, Ryan Brom, Megan Ochoa, Laura Lassiter, Natalie de Guzman, Eileen O, Marissa E, Sydney, Henry F, Megan M, Strangely Sarah, Christy Beck, Nancy and Andy, Amanda Lopez, Andy Terrell, Jason Hanovan, Katie K, Erica Morin, Cameron S, Nicole Stewart, Tris Wynn, K.87, Mariah Jensen, Carrie A, Lonnie Lono, Powell, Kayla E, Maggie H, Fernando Dominguez, Murder Stina, No Thanks Tom Hanks, Kevin McGonigal, Kristen Marcy, Ori 81 Boricua, Look Like That One Girl, Bog Boy, Felnez 63,
Alita Pui, Probably My Jugs, Kate Thackeray, Wade Pack, A Lizard, Bay J, Jay Rich, Jen Lassiter, Topher Williams, Elena Metler, Valerie K, Christy Lee Kruger, Professor of Humanities Laura McCarricker, Naomi, Josh Smith, Autumn Green, Heather Santiano, Abby Kopp, Crystal 831, Cassidy Carruthers, Skank Sinatra, Morgan Alexander, Tony Osteen, Julie Fredborg, Rihanna S., Daniel Taylor, Anna Kate, Heather Ortiz, Jen T., Kim H., August, Vengeance Spirit, Sam J. Green, Kelly Glazyface Mac, Jenny May, Zoe Marie, Glittery Fab, Malik Caselli Armstrong, Scarly D., Toya Shea, Katie, Martin Shaw, Star, Taylor J., Daniel Dickerson, Jordan Gaddis, Cam Davies, Tanya Selvog, and Patrick Hoagland. Thank you so much.
Thank each and every one of you so much.
Thank you so much. And honestly, in our eyes, you're all stars.
Yeah.
You know, like Pearl wanted to be.
Or
Yeah.
Smash Mouth, it sounded
Or
like.
Hey now.
You're all stars.
Yeah.
Until next time.